Meeting to order of the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners. Stand for a pledge and a moment of silence for all those affected by the recent outburst of gun violence. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking for a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda. So moved. Moved by Commissioner Schumacher.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hulse. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Moving on, open forum. Keisha, is there anyone signed up for open forum?
There is nobody signed up, Board Chair.
Moving on, consent agenda. Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. We do have a request from one commissioner to remove item 3.9 for separate consideration. Other than that, everything else is probably good to pass in one motion.
Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, pulling number 3.9.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Hulse, or Commissioner Felber, excuse me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Keisha.
All those opposed? Moving on to announcements. Bruce.
We should probably take 3.9 as a separate
3.9.
recommendation, yep. And Commissioner Felber had asked this to be taken off for discussion, and
Pulling it up here right now.
county engineer is here for any questions you have regarding it.
I'm just trying to pull up actually, I don't really think I need it. So, I mean, basically the question is, we hadn't talked about putting a trail component on that bridge during the entire months leading up to this point. And now, as the bridge is actually disassembled in the ground, needing to be done before the snow flies, we're adding $170,000 in cost, and we're adding a trail component that we had not previously approved. I don't think it should be done that way. I think we should, if this thing was going to be attached, if we're going to have a trail component on that bridge, I think that we should have been that should have been on our agenda, or that should have been in the plans that we looked at and approved before this was done. I don't know how much of the 170,000 is just the trail component and how much is the turn lanes. The turn lanes make sense for me. Once again, this is a place I'm really familiar with. This is my usual route to and from Elk River. I go down 15. That's really it. I mean, it's not so much the component itself, it's just how we're getting it, that we're not getting these things with the original part of the bridge, that we're getting them now.
So I'll give you, or I'll have Andrew just give you a little more background, and maybe the RBA wasn't sufficiently laid it out, but hopefully it isn't a surprise to you. It was not a surprise to us, but Andrew, do you want to fill in?
Yeah, thank you, Administrator, Mr. Chair, County Commissioners. So the trail portion of the bridge has always been included in the plan since the beginning. So that was in the design, included in the preliminary scoping and the design work as the project was awarded and bid to the contractor. The bulk of the additional funds for the design are in regards to other aspects of design changes that were encountered as we were going through the project through design. Most of it is not in regards to the trail design. The big part that we include the trail design for is also, just if we go back to the very beginning of scoping and whatnot, we understand that we always use local bridge bonds in regards to these projects. And when we use local bridge bonds, there's an 80-20 split. So really there's only about a 20% cost for adding on a portion of that trail on a bridge that's going to be there for 50 to 75 years versus potentially having to do millions of dollars of additional work down the line if we so chose to add a trail to that corridor. So in short, this addition and amendment to the contract is encompassed of all of the engineering changes and design scope changes through the process, and not specifically for the PED trail.
Andrew, for the board, probably not for today, but can you send the original documentation that shows that the bridge was, the PED portion was always included?
Sure can.
All right, thank
So-
you.
With time being the way it was, I didn't have time to look at the packet till Sunday afternoon. So I didn't have time to go back through and pull all the previous records. I mean, that's one of the problems with what we're presented with at these meetings, is sometimes you don't see it until right before the meeting. You know, but it says right on here, it says the geometry of bridge has been changed to include a pedestrian walkway. You know, I mean, so that's what I'm looking at, that's what I'm seeing, you know.
Yeah, we did a poor job of explaining it in the background, so we'll send out the background information, but it was originally included.
And Mr. Chair, I am supportive of doing these things. When you're talking about the kind of infrastructure that a bridge is and the life expectancy of this bridge, we are a growing area that will continue to grow. And I do not want to see us doing something in a retrofit design when we should be proactive in making sure that our infrastructure is envisioning the future and the growth of the area and the safety needs that come with it.
Andrew, maybe just touch on it for the layman. The geometry of the bridge has changed. Does that mean after they took the old bridge down, that the engineering changed in the design of what they ran into, that they had to change things?
No, so, Mr. Chair, County Board members, so that was during the design process. There was some site distance issues with some of the concrete barriers and some of the other geometry that was needed to be adjusted specific to the turn lanes that were mentioned, the bypass lanes. I believe there's a curve on the bridge as well, so there's some angles. And so once you start really looking at it in the nitty-gritty detail of design, there's geometry that needs to be adjusted in regards to the safety and clear zones and things like that.
We're moving the trail to allow for the turn lanes.
Can you say that again? I'm
We're
sorry.
moving like the trail component to allow for the turn lanes, if I'm understanding this correctly.
Yep,
That's a
so-
change in geometry that I wasn't getting.
Yep, correct. So there was adjustments that needed to be made for the turn lanes and bypass lanes, because we've got a couple of very close intersections to this bridge, both on the north side and the south side.
All right. And that's directly a result of me not taking the time to pull the previous.
No, actually, I would disagree with you. You did exactly what we want you to do. We want you to read the packet, we want you to ask questions, because if you don't see it, other people won't as well. You know, we only give you really Friday and Monday to ask questions before the board meeting. Usually it works. In this case, we'll do it after the fact, but please don't feel like you didn't do exactly what we want you to do.
I should have done it on Friday.
Yeah, so, you know, please, I mean, this is the best thing that can happen for building trust and confidence with the community. You know, these engineering projects are a huge process. Sometimes language is, you know, geometry, what does it mean? This is why you guys run the ship, so that you can feel comfortable with the decisions your staff is bringing for recommendations.
Well, and from an armchair quarterback perspective, just a little bit, the thing I would say is I think the lessons learned here is, if we're going to have scope changes, sometimes, and I've done projects like this too, sometimes it's easy, okay, well, the scope change, we know internally that it's all these different components, but I got to fill in this form. I'm just going to put in a couple of key issues and then move on. In these particular cases, I think it pays to be a little more detailed on those. So I guess the lessons learned that I would say on this is for scope changes like this, let's just make sure that we're taking the time to add a little bit more detail. It slows us down a little bit, but I think it pays off in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I'm done.
You're done.
Yeah.
That being said, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the amendments to the agreement with WSB and Associates for Bridge 71504, otherwise known as CASA 15, for additional construction phase services as recommended.
We have a motion by Commissioner Danielowski.
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Schumacher. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now we can move on to announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Going to run through quite a few things here, and I'll be passing some documents out, and we'll kind of do what we've done in the past. If you're interested in getting a hard copy or electronic copy, just put your initials on top of them, and then Commissioner Hulse, if you give them to Keisha, that would be great. A couple of calendar call things real quick. First of all, just a note that coming up on the 15th of October for your calendar is the Sherburne County Association of Township meetings. I know several of you like to attend that. That will be at the History Center. Typically, the dinner's at 6.
What's that date?
The 15th of October, and that's a Wednesday. We'll have a pretty heavy staff component there. Dan, what was our agenda topics we were going to talk about?
Ordinance rewrite and the legislative changes or priorities.
Right, so we were going to do the ordinance rewrite and then have you all talk about your legislative priorities. Those are those 9 amendments we talked about, kind of circling around the big issues. I think it's also important that we have a conversation specifically about the nuclear moratorium, because our townships may not be as far along as you are in your thinking. Second of a call, just to note also that on the 26th of September, we will have a groundbreaking at the new Avivo Center in St. Cloud. This is the, as you know, the homeless shelter. And I can send these dates out too in one email for you, or I'll add them to your calendars and you can do it as an invite. But this is from 10 to 12 p.m. in St. Cloud. This is that really, really unique project. And again, I would like to get any of you who are interested down to the Minneapolis facility to do a tour. It will change your perspective. I will tell you, it's that impactful of what they're really trying to do for acute homelessness. Larry's been tracking some of our veterans who are homeless in the St. Cloud area, and we will have bed space for our veterans as well at the facility. Also, just to note, the St. Cloud Regional Airport Authority is having their meeting on the 25th as opposed to the 18th of this month. That is a special meeting because their chair is out of town, but they are proposing, as you do, to set a preliminary levy for the first time in their history this year. So if you're interested, just note that that meeting is scheduled and you can attend virtually or in person. We'll be tracking it as well. I would also note that administrators are going to be meeting to do a follow-up from the conversation that the counties and the city had regarding some concerns over long-term governance and communication issues. So that will be happening as well. Finally, on calendar call, just a note, there is going to be, and I think I have something to pass out to you if you want. It started out as a labs to lakes concept designed for students, but the SWCD is involved in a Lake Fremont Carp Management Showcase coming up on the 29th of September, 5 to 6:30 p.m. That's a Monday evening. It's going to be in Grahams Park. And I'll tell you something, it's pretty interesting to see some of this. I've been around when they've done carp harvesting before. Be prepared. So I'll just send this around. If you're interested, you can write it down, and we'll make sure that you get information on it. What's that?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I actually said I would, for safety for Dan Weber, I would wear a life jacket to make sure. I said arm floaties, and he asked me to wear a life jacket at the event. That's
Well,
for
arm
all of our
floaties.
benefit.
Well, I got to tell you, when you do, when you put on waders and they give you pitchforks and you're getting carp out of lakes and pitchforks, it's an experience. There's some big fish, and carp have a unique smell to them, especially when they're there a couple of days, just so you know. And then a note for board information, more just FYI, is the History Center is conducting executive director interviews. First round will be the end of September. And that will be followed by early October with finalists. They hope to get down to 2 for final board or final consideration. Dan has been asked and has been participating in those interviews, so we're really excited about the opportunity to select a new executive director. And then there's other notes on your calendar just for you in terms of upcoming EDA meetings as well as county board meetings. With that, let's shift to correspondence and communications. Couple of things. So, anybody see the movie, the National Treasure Book of Secrets, the second movie? You know how at the end when Nicolas Cage goes in, meets the president, and the president shows him tomorrow's headlines, and he says, you know, here, and of course you always think about that. Well, I want you to know we did the same thing here. So I've worked with Ken and I've worked with the newspaper, and I have tomorrow's headlines for you. I've got two different drafts I want you to read. First is 27.5% county levy hike in initial proposal. So you can take a look at that. It's very well written, by the way. I ghost wrote a couple of quotes, especially one from Brad. And then the other draft, if you didn't like that one, is county looks at initial 24% levy hike increase. So if you don't like 27, we'll do 24. No, in reality, those are actual headlines from the 1990s, 93 and 94. Dan found them, and we thought it would be good to put things in perspective, so we wanted to share that with you. On that note, though, as we will be shifting to the budget later today, I just want to pass on a couple of things in correspondence. The Minnesota Department of Children, Youth, and Families did send out a good letter, interesting letter, on their perspective on the SNAP, the federal SNAP changes. So if you're interested, just put your initials on the top and I'll send it out to you. But it highlights what you already heard last week. Second, and again, same thing if you want a copy versus just, populating your inbox. Notice to counties and municipalities from Xcel Energy about electrical rate increases. And some of you, of course, get questions or comments about that. So when we get the official notices, I want you to have them. We will be talking about North Star later, but we also received the official response from the two commissioners, Commissioner of Transportation and the executive director, the chair of the Met Council, agreeing to our request for correspondence and communication, as you've already heard. Next, this is going to end up in Lynn's packet, but the Center for Rural Affairs sent a really interesting packet dealing with local regulations around energy, and it hit me for it because it talks about some of the decommissioning issues with solar and wind, and it just has some really good information and template language. So I know Lynn's staff will take a look at that when we talk about the ordinance rewrite. If you're interested in the details, again, just say, hey, I want to see it, and you can get a copy as well. And then just the last couple things. Northland Reliability Project. We've got a couple of notices of upcoming construction, and then some of their PUC activities as well. So if you are interested in tracking specifically Northland, you can do so as well with this. So it's been a busy inbox. I think that will end with just a one note. Keisha and I will also post for the Avivo thing if there's more than 3 of you going. But I just wanted to say thank you to the commissioners and especially to Dan and Keisha for covering as you allowed me to take some extra time with family these past couple of weeks. It means a lot to have a place that supports employees and their families. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll just say that your levy increase articles, it's scary. I recognize a few of those names, so.
That's why you have those glasses way down there.
I know. It's getting older, yeah.
Mr. Chair, in regards to the Xcel Energy rate increase, I think there is a public comment time up in St. Cloud. Is that today? Do we have a time where people could go?
I'll dig it out while you're on other items, and I can add it later, so yeah.
Because I know it's at the St. Cloud Library, but
At the library, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't remember what time it was, if people wanted to show up and express any thoughts on that rate increase they're asking for.
That's all you got, Bruce?
Yeah, it should be pretty good. Although I will share with you this on my last comment. Commissioner Hulse reminded me of this. When you go, when you leave an organization for a while, it's dually scary because you realize that you can be totally irrelevant, which means, okay, you're replaceable, But at the same time, it also means that it's being fairly well run because you have good succession plans and backup plans in place. So I don't know which one was in place while I was down in Arizona, but I appreciated the dualism of that reality. So thanks again.
Well, let me clarify what I said. It is a sign of good leadership that you can leave an organization and things continue to run.
Right.
And it's also a sign of excellent staff. So if you're a leader in an organization and you feel like it can't run without you, you're probably doing something wrong. So that was my point, was that things continued to run very smoothly. And we do appreciate the fact that you were able to take some time off because it's important to take care of family first.
Yep, definitely. Mr. Chair, just for clarification, and you will be sending out those other items to our emails?
I said I'd send out the Avivo, the one in particular, and you should already have the SCAP meeting on your calendars, but I can add the others if you're interested, so.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe Avivo Outlook invites were also sent. That should be in your Outlook as well.
There is one I didn't bring, just FYI, and it's somewhat related to the nuclear energy, but there's the LIUNA group, which is the labor unions. They have a big conference every year. We've never participated, but the nuclear energy folks do, and so I will just forward that to you if you're interested in attending. It's not going to be exclusive to nuclear, so it covers all trade activities, but it might be of interest, so I will add that one as well.
All right, moving on. Regular agenda. Consider approval of preliminary standard plat for Wind Dancer Estates, T&T Northern Development. Lynn, morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is for T&T Northern Development LLC, Robert Roback and Ronald Roback. They want preliminary standard plat approval for Wind Dancer Estates. This is 14 lots in Livonia Township in the General Rural District. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 6 conditions that were in your packet.
Questions? Looking for a motion.
I would motion that we approve the residential standard plat with the conditions and finding of fact.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Felber, second by Commissioner Danielowski. Any further discussion?
This one didn't have a findings of facts, it's just conditions
sorry.
on a plat. Nope, we're
Habit.
good, just making sure I clarify.
It's a habit.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, consider approval of interim use permit for Medium Contractors Yard, Steinbrecher Companies Incorporated. Lynn, again.
And this is located on the Manthai property. It's an LLC in Livonia Township in the General Rural District. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 12 conditions and the findings of facts.
There we go. All right, so I would, if there's any questions, I would motion that we approve this one with the conditions and findings of fact.
Motion by Commissioner Felber,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Danielowski. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 5.3, consider approval of a conditional use permit for a farm-related business repair and maintenance of equipment. Amy Saul, again, Lynn.
And so this is for Amy Saul, and the property owners Dwayne and Susan Paulson. This is in Clear Lake Township in the Agricultural District. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 8 conditions and the findings of fact.
I make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for the farm-related business with the conditions and findings of fact.
Moved by Commissioner Schumacher,
Second it?
second by Commissioner Felber. Any further discussion? I'd just like to say, I think this family is, I've known them for years. They're going to dot all their i's and cross their t's in regard to this, so this is perfect for the area. So,
Yeah, it seems like a good idea to put a farm repair business in the middle of the farming
in a
district.
farming district, yes. This is a no-brainer. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 5.4, consider approval of resolution 091625-AD 3239, granting a waiver from a certain sections of the solid waste ordinance for B&E Recycling Station Incorporated. I was gonna say Dave, but he's still sitting. Good morning, Maureen.
Good morning, Commissioner, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The department is requesting approval of a resolution granting a waiver from certain sections of the solid waste ordinance for B&E Recycling Station. B&E Recycling Station operates a processing facility in the city of Elk River. B&E Recycling Station submitted an application requesting to waive certain requirements in section 12.3 for salvage yards facilities as referenced in the resolution. B&E does not operate a salvage yard. They operate a processing facility for the purpose of recycling. The waiver would allow B&E Recycling Station to store up to 20 vehicles and limit them to removal of tires, rims, batteries, and catalytic converters for the purpose of recycling. Any questions?
No, I would move that we approve resolution 091625-AD-3239 to grant that waiver.
All that? Yep. We have a motion by Commissioner Felber,
Second.
second by Commissioner Schubacher. Any further discussion?
I just think this is the kind of thing that we have to do if we want to continue to promote recycling, and it's so important that we recycle these components. So making it easier for companies to do it increases the amount of material that goes into the recycling pathway.
I just had a real quick question. Being as we do have 2 salvage yards in our county, how long are they able to keep the cars? I mean, once they get what they want off of it, then do they take it to a salvage yard?
Yeah, they do. They have them hauled out of there once they
Okay.
process it. Yes.
All right, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Anyone else? We have a motion, a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Moving on, consider approval of issuance of a modified solid waste license for B&E Recycling Incorporated. Maureen, you're up again.
Yes. So the department is requesting the approval of a modified solid waste license for B&E Recycling Station that includes the waiver to the various sections within 12.3 of the solid waste ordinance. Staff has reviewed and approved the application for modification and are recommending issuance of a renewed modified license for a 5-year term ending on December 31st, 2030. The renewed modified license provides for additional operational standards to allow for increased storage and limits them to the removal of the tires, rims, batteries, and catalytic converters from the junk vehicles.
As this is the required part 2 of our previous, I will make the motion that we approve the issuance of modified solid waste license to B&E Recycling.
Moved by Commissioner Felber,
Second.
second by Commissioner Schumacher. Any further discussion?
I do have another question. Is this like a duplication of what the salvage yards already do? Is B&E, have they previously taken in junk vehicles?
They don't really take it, they take in the junk vehicles, but they only take off the parts of them for recycling, and then they haul them out of there. They only, their only purpose is to pull those parts for recycling as there's a market for them.
Right.
I can't speak to what the salvage yards do.
If you separate, you're separating certain components so that you're getting, there's less of the non-saleable components on that vehicle. So you're going to get more for the chassis of the vehicle after you've removed those components. You remove the troublesome parts like the tires and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that's exactly what salvage yards do too, so.
Just to clarify.
the salvage yards will
What
keep-
happens here, what happens here, as stated earlier, they're not operating a salvage yard. But they do need to store the vehicles for a limited period of time while they're removing these components.
Yeah.
And then, so it's an interim step, and then it goes to a salvage yard.
Yeah.
That's what's happening here. It's not, they're not replicating what a salvage yard does. They're simply storing the vehicles for a limited period of time while they remove the recyclable components, and then it moves on to a salvage
I
yard.
can't go buy a motor or a transmission from them. I can buy a motor or a transmission from the salvage yard. Well,
Because I just wanted to
some of
make
my
sure,
stuff.
because they do also at salvage yards, you can buy tires, you can buy a lot of these things. So I just wanted to make sure that, and they are under the same guidelines that we put the salvage yards under?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, so Commissioner Holtz just stated that very clearly. The difference, so why B&E needed to request a waiver is because under the definition, that many junk vehicles is a salvage, they would be operating a salvage yard. So we're waiving certain sections of the ordinance to allow them to remove only those materials, but they're not operating a salvage yard because a salvage yard includes a whole different section of the ordinance, requires end of life. So end of life means when a vehicle comes in, those fluids have to be drained, and you need to see, so you remove the batteries, you remove all the components that need to be taken off that vehicle to allow for proper storage of those vehicles, so that you can go out there and you can remove a fender, a side mirror, anything that's salvageable off that vehicle before it's sent to a facility like Northern Metals where they shred the rest of these vehicles. B&E is only allowed to take off tires, rims, batteries, catalytic converters. They would be required to have safe storage of those vehicles. There's language in the license that they need to go out there and inspect it on a regular basis. And then once those items are removed, that vehicle must be taken off and taken to a proper salvage yard. So.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just
Yes.
wanting to make sure that we're not duplicating a process. Most of those cars probably did go to salvage yards to take off just those same items as well. So I just was curious as to how did B&E get into the bring your car to my business as versus bringing your car to a salvage yard that would pay you for it.
I think he sees a market for those particular items because, catalytic converters, it's titanium steel, there's a high value to that. He's allowed to operate his business and make a profit under a safe method by waiving certain sections of the salvage yard, so he's not operating a salvage yard. Because we don't want him to operate a salvage yard there. He's not set up for that.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
As Brenda comes up, I just wanted to note a couple things. I did look it up. The public hearing today for the proposed energy increase, electricity rate increase, is at 11:30 a.m. at the Great River Regional Library's downtown St. Cloud location. There is also an online form for people who can't make it in person. I sent you the link as well as we'll post that on our website and our Facebook page. So that people want to submit, they can do so. Also, I did note, I forgot to note one non-calendar item. We were unable to successfully secure a date for all of you to participate in a road and bridge tour. So Andrew and I are going to schedule that for early spring, so then you can also see the potholes as well. So,
How exciting.
yeah, so you won't see that calendar or that item on your calendar. So, thanks.
All right, number 5.6, receive, review, and accept the Auditor Treasurer's monthly report for August 2025. Morning, Brenda.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here for Lorraine today. Enclosed is the August trial balance prepared by Accounting Manager Sherlyn Kapsner. The report includes ARPA funds of $1,446,168.73 and the Recorder's Compliance Fund of $314,523. There's also a 3-page investment report prepared by myself. My investment earnings are above budget by $928,517.46 at month end. Interest earnings year-to-date totaled $2,528,517.46 compared to $2,177,411.82 last year. So we were ahead of last year by $351,105.64. Page 6 has the budget to actual report by function, and this is a modified accrual report. We also have some upcoming elections for 2025. Sherburne County has 5 special elections for school districts that will be on November 4th, 2025. They are for ISD 477 in Princeton for a bond referendum. ISD 726 Becker has a bond referendum and a vacant board seat. ISD 727 Big Lake has a bond referendum. ISD 742 St. Cloud has a vacant board seat. And ISD 882 Monticello has a bond referendum. Absentee balloting starts on Friday, September 19th for these elections. Each school district is the main election contact and administering the absentee ballots, except for ISD 742 St. Cloud and ISD 882 Monticello, as Stearns County and Wright County both have special elections, and they will be the main election contacts. Sherburne County will be processing the Sherburne County UOCAVA ballots for all of the elections listed above. Any questions, feel free to reach out.
Questions?
I'll make a motion to accept and approve the Auditor Treasury Report.
Moved by Commissioner Halls to accept the report,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Felber. Any further discussion?
Very clear, concise. Thank you.
Perfect, yep.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 5.7, consider approval of acquisition of artificial intelligence tools to improve efficiency in the HHS department. Good morning, Gina.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Gina Anderson. I'm the manager of the Economic Supports Division in Health and Human Services, and I oversee the income maintenance teams that administer public assistance programs. You may recall this past January, we shared with you the challenges our income maintenance team was having with facing an unprecedented high volume of phone calls. And more recently, some of you attended a presentation that was provided to the Legislative Director of Representative Tom Emmer's office on the inefficiencies of our current eligibility systems that are used for processing new applications, renewals, and taking changes from enrollees. Currently, this eligibility work is split between 2 systems, Maxis and METS. I wanted to share that Maxis is a system that is more than 35 years old. It was released back in the 1980s, uses green screen technology, and lacks the functionality needed for the upcoming federal requirements under H.R. 1. METS, the Minnesota Eligibility Technology System, is newer. However, it's riddled with inefficiencies, has hundreds of defects, and has extensive manual workarounds as well. Together, these systems are outdated, fragmented, and administratively burdensome. With the new federal work requirements and more frequent Medicaid redeterminations that will be upcoming, we're already having very high workloads for our staff, and with these coming into place, the workload will grow substantially. To that end, we're looking for ways to prepare, reduce risk of financial penalties to the best of our ability, and ease the administrative lift for staff. At the recent AMC Policy Conference, you may have seen the presentation on these antiquated and inefficient systems and heard about counties working with vendors such as TIPCO and Data Depot for technology solutions. We are here to request approval to move forward with these 2 initiatives. The EVA platform through TIPCO is an AI tool that can take calls 24/7 and answer general questions, streamlines and condenses DHS policy information, automates the interview process, and can take changes in circumstances from enrollees as well as upload them into a PDF or into the eligibility systems. By doing this, it saves worker time, reduces errors, and automates routine tasks. The cost is $30,000 for the last quarter of 2025 and $87,700 for 2026. Data Depot is a central repository with a common data model that all counties can use for reporting and analytics. Instead of each county building its own tools and pulling data in different formats, Data Depot produces Power BI reports, scripts, and dashboards using state and county data. Each county would maintain its own data environment, ensuring local control, security, and compliance. The cost for Data Depot is $27,000 for 2026. If approved, both projects would be funded through the healthcare unwinding allotment provided to Sherburne County for the next 2 years. After that, we would evaluate whether the efficiencies justify budgeting federal, state, and county resources for continuation of the platforms. Asking today for your approval to move forward with these initiatives. They represent a significant step towards reducing the manual, repetitive work of our eligibility staff, and also would help with the county meeting upcoming federal requirements in a responsible and efficient way.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Holtz.
I will take the opportunity to pull out my soapbox. I want to state for the public and for the press in the room, I don't think we can overstate the dereliction of duty that has happened with our IT systems. And to make it clear, our IT systems are mandated by the state. So we have a fundamental moral hazard in how we are set up. We are one of 10 states that operate HHS in this manner. The state dictates what systems we are required to use, yet never has to use them themselves. And consequently, these systems have not been fixed for 30 years. The systems that our employees are required to use predate Windows. The systems the good news is, Maxis was developed in 1984, to put it in perspective. The good news is Sherburne County has the latest update, copyrighted 1993. That's 32 years ago that the latest update happened on Maxis. This technology is not just obsolete. When these computer programs were developed, the computing power of this phone would fill up a room. That's how old these systems are. It is unacceptable that these are the systems that our employees are still required to use. So I would encourage our friends at the press to come in for a tour. We'd be happy to set up a demonstration on just how old these systems are that our employees are required to use by the state. And I think this is a story that needs to be told.
Just a quick note, we have an AI policy which you guys have adopted, so this went through the vetting, but Don reminded me we still want to make sure that the firewall is there with any client data. So if you approve this, we'd like to just make it subject to final review by administration and county attorney. And then there might be what I'll call a business risk issue, which we have a committee to do. But we've talked about putting our toe in. This is kind of putting our ankles in, but it's pretty safe. These are all kind of, what do you call them, process efficiencies?
That's correct.
Not specific client data efficiencies, but
No, it would be public-facing data.
Right.
That would be used and
Right.
utilized. And of course, we would work with IT to ensure that there's
Yeah.
no risk with that, but.
yeah. So anyhow, we did vet it on policy, but just a final check, we'll do that as well. So
And just a question, these systems, they are off-the-shelf systems?
That is correct.
Currently, and can you tell me who they're in use by? Do we have a reference
So
list?
Olmsted County and Stearns County are currently piloting both and have given me good reviews of both as well. And while the end goal and end game is to modernize our systems overall, we know that that will take years to do. And so we're looking for something in the interim that will help with the current workload as well as what's anticipated to come.
And maybe we'll do a workshop down the road a little bit more on AI. I knew Drew would love to do it. Right now we have what I'll call a very, very hard firewall when anything AI. We actually use a little bit of AI internally in our, was it Copilot? Correct. But that's only internal, and then this would only be external. So we're not allowing that firewall to be broached yet, so.
I will state that with Stearns and Olmsted, they are using the, crawl, walk, run method. And so they're starting with crawl and incrementally adapting to these systems to ensure that that risk is not there for release of any private data. We would follow suit.
Yeah, and one of these has already been vetted through MCCC, so that's the Minnesota Counties Competing Consortium. So we're not, I don't know how Felix used to say it, we're not ahead of our skis, or we're not first. We're not the explorer or the trailblazer. We're kind of the third or fourth county taking on this look, so.
MCCC holds the contract, so there are 10 counties that have been working, Sherburne included, in the collaboration with hoping to move forward with that platform. So we do have a statement of work that I will be submitting.
Mr. Chair, we did have a lot of good discussion at AMC, and while we were having people that were explaining where this technology is and how far behind it is, at the same time, they were having someone who was actually doing a live input just to change an address on someone's account. And while we were walking or going through the presentation, that person was doing that. And I want to say it was about almost 40 minutes later, they achieved success, just to change an address.
I think, true to what Commissioner Hull stated previously, people are not really aware of how antiquated these systems are, and essentially the time it takes for doing a very routine task, such as an address change. That is about as routine as we get, but we do know that most of the work we do in a day are not routine, so it can take far longer than that.
Yeah. Also, I would like to speak to, I was very happy that Congressman Emmer's, some staff came to, personally witness this. I think that we need to also extend that invitation to the legislators in this state to come and witness these things. I hope every county is contacting their legislators to come into those HHS operations and actually witness what has to happen in order to do the mandated services.
Absolutely, and we again are more than happy to do that.
Yep, so I think we need to extend that invitation and hopefully get some time set up with our elected representatives from the state and get them in there to see what you guys deal with.
Absolutely. Thank
I
you.
just hope Commissioner Hull's soapbox is real loud real big, because I think all 5 of us would stand on top of it and say, so it was very well stated. There's nothing else for any of us else to say other than what he did. But agreeing with about the press, I think, and all those listening online, I think they have the same invitation to make this story be told, because it is something that is long overdue. With that being said, and I noticed that we started talking about AI and Drew magically shows up in the room. So with that, I need a motion.
A motion we approve?
Yep.
And again, if you'd approve subject to final review.
Approve subject to final review. Yes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Felber, second by Commissioner Danielowski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I got a lot of confidence in our IT staff, so.
Yep.
Did you notice you said I and not AI when you approved it? So just.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah, he's been waiting all morning for me to do something like that. I know. Moving on.
All right, so
Great.
we are back. We did not want to do a 5th workshop. So, and we're also not setting up a table because we'll get too comfortable. So what we're going to do is efficiently go through the remaining items that were left from the previous workshop. Commissioner Hulse, I think you've had a chance to review the work that was done. In the RBA, it cited some very specific questions that were left open-ended. I thought there were 3, but I think, Jen, there were 4 ultimately, right?
We've maybe stuck a couple of other just points to address in.
Okay, so you're going to keep this very tight and lean, and we'll answer any questions, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go through these fairly quickly. The goal today is to finalize a draft ordinance. This is not your final position. That will be determined after a public hearing, notice to affected business owners, hearing from them, the community. That would be the time for a final decision. This is just to propose a single draft ordinance, which must be published in order to be formally considered. So, Jen?
Correct. Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. So we'll just, there we go. kind of get started here. As mentioned, we have a couple of issues just to touch base with you again. We've had a number of meetings. One is proximity to schools. We had kind of zeroed in on proximity of tobacco shops from schools. At the previous workshop, we talked about distances. And in the template ordinance right now, we have 500 feet from schools for tobacco shops as measured from the closest public entry point of the tobacco shop to the closest point of the property line of the school. And so just wanted to confirm that those were the touch points that the board was interested in having in the draft ordinance, or if there was something different. And then there's language in there which would provide exceptions, essentially grandfathering in those existing validly licensed tobacco shops currently, as well as allowing them to sell their establishment to someone else. They would retain that exception. Is there any discussion on different distances or different measurement? We do need a measurement component in the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, this was a compromise all the way to make it work. It's written like how we had compromised at the last workshop.
So just so I'm clear, since I was absent at the last one, what is the compromise language?
Oh, prop versus front door to front door, or versus property line to property line. And this was the best we could come up with. And then having to provide the exception of the proximity to the applicant purchasing the existing and keeping. So if they're there now, they're able to stay there if they sell their business to another business. But
So the distance is measured from the front door of the tobacco shop to the property line of the school.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
And then
Schools have many entrances, so how?
Yep, that's fine.
the compromise is between none and 1,000 feet.
Which is how we end up with
Because it's very difficult to do this. I mean, that was really kind of the compromise. But we still have it in here or something else.
And that was just my talking point for you folks today, just to make sure there wasn't something else that you wanted done.
Okay. All right.
So we're going with basically what she's saying, the 500 feet,
We're sticking to restrictions from schools.
With the tobacco shop door.
or something else will be eliminated.
Yes, that's not in the draft language. That was in my PowerPoint to remember to ask you if you wanted something else.
And I want to be clear
You
on
good with
the,
that?
on the
Okay.
on the two entities, it is specifically a school
sure.
and specifically a tobacco shop as defined in the place. Okay, thank you. That's fine.
Make sure I don't miss anything here.
Yes. Another issue was the prohibited sales and how or if flavors were to be incorporated into that. One option is to not have any flavor prohibitions. Another was to allow specifically flavored vapes, but only in tobacco shops, or to allow any flavored product only in tobacco shops. So there's sort of a progression there, and I'm not sure we had final confirmation on what the interest was.
Ran?
I thought that we had said that we were not going to do flavored vapes in tobacco shops.
That was part of the discussion, and I know we were missing a member last time, because the prior workshop had been an interest in allowing flavored vapes in tobacco shops, but not anywhere else, but allowing the other stores to sell other flavored products. And just wanted to confirm if that truly is the direction. And I think Alicia maybe has additional comments on the impacts of that.
Because I think didn't we originally talk about, okay, because there's menthol, and that seems to be, and we were like, okay, so any other flavor would be no, but menthol, yes. But then we found out we can't identify it to that degree. It's either a flavor or it's not. Am I correct?
Correct. So good morning, commissioners. So the discussion that we had at the last workshop was the recommendation to either do option A, nothing at all, or option C, so only allow flavored products of any kind in tobacco shops, just because there was some concerns with separating the products out and treating them differently, not only for consumer confusion, but also some potential litigation concerns with treating products differently. And so that was our recommendation from Public Health, is either we do all products, all flavored commercial tobacco products to tobacco shops, just because there was some interest in doing some restrictions to tobacco shops solely, or to do nothing at this point and come back and have a discussion at a later time.
Well, let me just throw in here. The only option I'm interested in is B. Okay, the only option that I'm interested in is flavored vapes, restricted to tobacco shops only. And the reason I'm interested in flavored vapes is because those are specifically targeted at children.
To children.
Yep.
Right? So the only option I'm interested in is B.
And you have to be, I think, is it 18 or 21 to be in a tobacco shop?
21.
21.
Yeah, and that was the consensus of the four was B. What you heard was original staff recommendation. We're fine with B, so.
Yeah.
B. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, B is just, when we brought it up at the ISD 728 meeting, or when Commissioner Hulse brought it up at the 728 meeting, I mean, it's so popular. I mean, it's kind of like a no-brainer to give that a try and see how it works at this point in time. So, yeah.
B.
And with the fact that you can't get into a tobacco shop if you're not 21, so that keeps it more out of the hands of our
Yes.
young people.
All right.
It is a violation of law. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it is a violation of law, such things as they are.
And then another issue was this sort of packaged issue of sizes, minimum pricing, and coupons. And the Public Health Agency recommendation is to do one or the other. There'd been some conversation previously about splitting them up and just looking at package size, but not the others. But the recommendation as far as effectiveness really is to do all three to combined, or to set that aside and not incorporate them in this amendment and look at those later on down the road.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Schumacher.
I'd just like to circle the front page of the Star News and pass it down to my colleagues. I'm just,
Counselor, are we entering this into the record? Is that what
we're
we're doing?
entering it into the record, just so you go.
Yeah.
Billy?
I am
I'd get another copy if I had one.
remaining I believe in option A. I mean, you know, it's the, let the market set it, let people try to make a living off of what isn't otherwise legal, what is a legal product.
I'm in agreement with Commissioner Felber. I want to do something on flavored vapes. That to me is the most egregious piece. I don't really have an interest in stepping in as a government entity managing pricing and coupons and package size. That's an economies of scale thing, so I'm not interested in getting in that business.
I kind of feel the same way, but after you see what Commissioner Schumacher just pointed out to us, that's sorry to the Star, but they put on a coupon to the front page of the paper for smokeless. So that's frustrating, but I understand the rationale for not limiting anything. I mean, I get that for businesses, but in the same sense, you know.
It's a legal product.
It's a product.
They
that
can
can be
advertise
sold.
it.
Well, and this doesn't have to be the last word. If we implement something now, you can revisit in a year and say, it's effective, it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess I go with option B too.
All right. And then additionally,
Just clarify, you meant option A.
Option A, yeah.
Option A, okay.
we had talked about administrative penalties at the last meeting. We had talked about amounts. Option A is the state-required penalty amount. Option B, there are some jurisdictions that increase those fine amounts or those sanction amounts. And there had been some interest at that last meeting to do the increased amounts. Just wanted to confirm that is the case that the board is interested in pursuing. And this is for the license holders when there's a violation that occurs in their store of selling. Or otherwise a violation by the license holder.
Yeah, I'm in support of the increased penalties.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Your penalties, yeah.
I'm proposed, as always, because I just don't want to be the ones that make it harder to do business in Sherburne County.
I think
It's not harder to do business, it's harder to follow the law.
Well, it's just, yeah, you're going to get you know, if you're looking at where you're gonna go, you know, you don't wanna be, get beat up harder for the same mistake by a staff member in this county than you are in the county. I mean, look, Princeton comes up a lot in this idea, because a block over, it's one system, a block this way, it's another system. So, I mean, I'm not gonna change my mind on that.
No,
And you don't have to be unanimous. I mean,
yeah,
Which just
and
means that,
that's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
I just think that it puts the onus on the business to make sure that they really train their employees, because these are the kinds of penalties that can make a difference. And so that's our goal, is to make sure that they're providing very good training to make sure that they don't come into a violation.
I'm just a lot more in favor of very good parenting. You know, and I said this before,
wish it
I
was
did not
easy as
smoke
that.
because I was influenced by the Marlboro Man on TV. I smoked because my dad smoked. I smoked because my uncle smoked. You know, we wanted to be adults, and that's what our adult role models did, so we did the same thing as soon as we could access it.
Yeah,
And I lived in a world where legal access was 16. So, I mean, I don't want to be, my overriding thing with this whole deal is that I don't feel that the state is the parent. The parents have to be responsible for some of this.
So where I'll respectfully depart from my colleague is I think we've done a pretty good job of targeting in on the areas that we're trying to focus on, which is what we're trying to focus on with the ordinance was trying to specifically focus in on underage use of products, which is illegal. And the penalties here are penalties based on illegally selling a product to an underage minor. In my mind, it is no different than a business selling alcohol to an underage minor. There should be penalties for that. It is a perfectly legal product for an adult to use, and there is no penalty for doing that. However, I want because of the restrictions around because we are limiting the restrictions, and because we're focusing in on flavored vapes, which is the big, the big product that's targeted toward underage. I think it's fine for us to have a little more teeth in our enforcement. So it is about legal enforcement. So that's where I'm fine with it.
I agree with Commissioner Hulls, but I also agree with Commissioner Felber that parenting is probably a part of it, but in the same sense, for me, I've said $500, $1,000, $1,500, you know, even $2,000 for me is not a big deal, because as a business owner, you write a check for $500, you don't think much of it. But $2,000, you think a lot of it. $1,500, you think more of it. You're only going to let it happen once, and it's not going to happen again. So I'm for the severe penalties.
all right, we'll write up option B then.
We're at.
I would note, as we go through the discussion here, just a note. Originally, we wrote this up for the second bullet, October 21st, for a public hearing, but Jen reminded me very astutely that we do have to do a 30 days notice to the current license holders. So we were proposing instead, even though it slides a little bit, to do it in November. Jen, do we have the option of the 4th of November? You put the 18th, or?
I think we had maybe some of our group here who were not available, and I also believe that's election day. So there might just have been a lot of things
Sure.
going on.
Okay, so what our recommendation is, just because of the timing of the logistics, if you approve the draft ordinance today and set the public hearing, we would recommend it be set for the 18th of November, the second bullet. In the RBA, it says October 21st, but we've reviewed that since Thursday when we published this, and we would not recommend the 21st. It's too tight of a window that we could mistakenly do it, and there's no propensity to rush, I think, is the point.
Right. Okay. Well taken. November 18th then.
Okay, and so I think formally what we're looking for is approval to publish the notice of intent to enact the amended ordinance, and then approval to send the notices out to those license holders, and the public hearing date for November 18th.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Hulse,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Danielowski. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All
Thank
right.
you.
And I want to thank staff for really working with us with the commissioners. We will now soon start our 5-part workshop series on the issue of tobacco-free campus. So get ready for that. So
5-part
just kidding,
series.
just kidding.
I'm sure they're excited.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question for the group that came up. I would like either we do a future workshop. The issue that came up was at AMC, and it had to do with cannabis. It was the issue is that the low dosage ordinances or state law, I guess, as I understand it, as was explained by the Office of Cannabis Management, is that the low dosage items, so the edibles and the drinks, prior to October 1st, all a company had to do was register online that they were selling those and inform the state that they were selling those. As of October 1st, those entities have to apply for a license, and then I believe they said they have to apply for a local registration as well. My concern is, based on the discussion at AMC, is that there's literally thousands of these companies. And I don't know, I'm not comfortable. How do we know that all those companies are applying for a license? How do we know who's selling them? How do we know that this transition happens, going from just informing the state, oh, by the way, we're selling these things, to I have to have a license, I have to be registered locally, and those sort of things. So what I would like to see is us do a workshop on how that transition is going to happen, what the communication paths are, and what the enforcement is, so that we just understand how this transition is. I anticipate this being a very messy transition. So I would just like to make sure we understand that a little bit more.
Yes, we can work on that.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, because October 1st comes up fast.
Yeah, and
2 weeks. Yeah.
And the Sherburne County Association Townships will also be pulsing them to hear, some of them are doing their own ordinances and see what they're hearing for activity. There are some places in the state that it's becoming a big issue. It hasn't been here yet, so, yeah, Jen?
And I was just going to say that the authority to operate those businesses under the state registration system that they had will continue, I think actually until the end of the year, because they anticipate they're opening their window for the applications for the low potency hemp retailers and manufacturers and wholesalers, but that the process of getting through that will take some time. And so they weren't going to do like a hard and fast stop date on October when the window opened. My understanding was that they were giving a few months for that transition to occur. So that does give us a little time, and that gives the businesses time to continue operating as they were before, while their applications for licensure are working their way through the system, was my understanding.
I have a strong feeling that this is a moving target, but as it was presented on Friday, it was going to be a hard transition for a month. They were going to open the window up for October 1st. I think they were going to close it on October 31st. At least that's what they were indicating on Friday.
For the applications.
For the licensing.
For the licensing application.
Yep.
Great, okay. Yeah, so we'll continue to look into that, and we'll get some kind of a workshop scheduled. Okay.
Yeah, because I would look at that as like the Real ID transition over years. And when it came down to the hard stop, the amount of people that flooded that had not gotten it yet was crazy.
Yeah, and I'll pull the AMC slides and get them to you guys so that so you can at least have a jump start, so.
Great, thank
Yeah, and my concern's not necessarily the people that are trying to follow the new rules, it's the ones that aren't. It's, do we have companies operating outside of the change, as we move into 2026?
Thank you, guys. That was a lot of great work, so I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And we got through that in less than 15 minutes. That's great.
I'll be sick more often.
No, we just gave more time,
No,
we gave
you
more
won't.
time for Dan, so.
Don't think it's gonna be that easy. No. All right. Moving on, consider approval of the 2026 budget for Eagle Lake Improvement District. Dan?
Good morning, Commissioners, and I'll try to be tight and efficient as well, Bruce. Each year, both the Eagle Lake Improvement District and the Three Lake Improvement District are required by their individual orders to present their annual budget to the county board. In addition, they may seek authorization to impose service charges or to assess the costs of proposed projects on properties within the LID. This is not a county tax, as any individual assessments are voted on by the members of each lake improvement district and are assessed only to the benefiting properties of that district. So the Eagle Lake Improvement District budget was included in your board packet, and they are seeking to assess a $250 per property assessment to the 150 properties that would benefit. This would generate a total of $37,500, which is the exact same amount as last year.
I just have one question in 37 parts. The one thing I always want to point out on these lake improvement districts is that these levies are voted on by the members of the lake improvement district. This is, as you said, this is not a county tax. From a formality standpoint, they vote as an entity on these levies, but then it has to go through the county for final approval, but it's purely an administrative function.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd be looking at a motion to approve the budget and the assessment.
Move to approve their motion and the assessment.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Hulse.
Second it.
Commissioner Felber seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
So that was the
Motion
Eagle
carries.
Lake. We're moving on to the Three Lake Improvement District. Once again, their budget was included in the packet, and they are seeking to assess a $74.52 per property, and this would generate a total of, oh, I got my notes wrong.
$32,045.
$32,045.
Thank you. I put the same amount for both districts. And their assessment in 2025 was actually zero because they had a healthy reserve balance. So this would be a new assessment to these property owners.
And their lid is consistent of 430 individual properties.
Correct.
A lot of houses out there. Look for an motion to approve the levy and their budget.
I move. We approve it.
Commissioner Felber moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Danielowski. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
One quick additional comment. As I was looking through this, I did see that they had mentioned in the Eagle Lake lid that they were talking about the ability to regulate wake boats. And I do think that that does exist under the ability of local jurisdiction. I'm not 100% sure, but that.
You know, the sheriff has authority. I don't know how it works for like a lid, but we could dig around a little
Oh,
bit.
not a
into it.
lid, but I'm saying that like
Yeah.
maybe that might be something they want to bring up with their township.
Yes,
or
yeah, I think so.
Township, I think that ability does exist in Minnesota at like township or city level. If it's a city lake or a township lake, that a township could do that.
Yeah, wake boats and also, yeah, the wake boats have been an issue for local jurisdictions, as has ordinary high water or high water
Yeah.
limitations as well. So, yeah, we can dig around a bit and make sure we understand it.
Yeah, I would like clarification on that too, because my understanding is that the sheriff, the water patrol has control over when something is implemented.
I think
Might be
that's-
able to request it from a local jurisdiction level.
Yeah, we'll dig
Sheriff has
around a bit.
Enforcement ability.
Yeah, I think we enforce, but it might be the local jurisdiction that sets like a
Okay.
no wakeboard or hours of wakeboards, things like that.
I think it's good information.
So could we do a workshop on that at some point?
Yeah, we'll dig around. We'll talk to, I don't know, that's not Cole, who's our?
Yeah, it is Cole.
Well,
If
Cole,
you're
but he's
asking-
got somebody else who goes out on the boat too, so, yeah, we'll dig around a bit, yeah.
Yeah, it'd just be interesting. I know, for example, in Florida, there's like 3 different jurisdictions over, depending on where the waterway is. So it would be interesting to know who can
All right, because
Who can make those rules?
Yeah, and there's,
it just keeps coming up. I mean, it's Ann Lake, they're getting deterioration of the boat ramp. Obviously, they're concerned about if they do the alum treatment, the, the depth that the wake boat can, 20 feet down.
Yeah.
Agitation, so.
yeah. No, it's a good question, and especially if we're going to continue to have wet years, and you're going to have high water, it comes up periodically as well, so.
We're working with these lids, that's something we should resolve.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Consider approval of Resolution 091625-AD 3238, setting the proposed 2026 property tax levy at $66,842,284. Bruce?
Yeah, so just a note for scheduling, we will have some folks from the Met Council and MnDOT joining us, as well as our St. Cloud partners online about 10:30. So if this goes long, I'll defer to the board, but out of respect for some of our partners, we maybe want to, pause, do North Star and come back. But with that said, I'm just going to hand out a couple of things through Dawn, if you want to grab one. For detailed reference, we don't necessarily get into it. These are individual, you just have to pull them apart. Just to give you the final copy, obviously, Dan and I have been working since our last workshops with the board direction. You wanted us to get under 6.5, which we've done. I'll also tell you that we haven't done some of the gimmicks or tricks that maybe some of our colleagues are doing to get by 1 year. We're trying to be very deliberate that anything we do this year, we don't have to go, now we got to deal with it last year. So, the most common analogy is we're not burning the furniture to heat the house this winter, because if you burn your reserves, they're not there next year. So everything that we're doing is consistent with board direction. What I will share with you is, you've heard, and I'm sure you talked at AMC, we're probably right in the middle of the wheelhouse of where other counties are coming in. There's counties that are in the teens, high single digits. There's a couple that are coming in lower than us. Stearns pulled some magic out of the hat, and they're going to be lower when they started out higher. Wright looks like they'll be a little bit lower. Didn't get a definitive number from Anoka, but we expect they're going to be higher. Dakota County's higher. Washington County's similar to us. So usually our counterparts, I think we're very close, and I'll just note exactly with the unique pieces to us where we deviate. My memo to you, I think, lays it out, and I just want to highlight more for the public than you, that we are seeing, of course, those upward pressure just on personnel costs, insurance, and inflationary activity. We are, I'll talk more about staffing, but obviously we have to continue to address the mandated services and the growth in population. We do have a cut down, but still a modest improvement in parks and trails, but a very small increase there. Obviously, the demand for public safety and social services. What I note in particular is there was, as the single sheet that I handed out to you, and this is so far holding form, which is why I gave it to you again. We haven't had any major updates, but I think our deferrals are still legit, and I'll highlight in particular, we don't have a lot of more information on the disability waiver shift, and so I think Amanda and I are still comfortable deferring that till we understand what the state committee does. The long-term care assessment flat reimbursement rate is deferred as well. The AIS species, again, that's a deferral. And then if you go down to community corrections, we get a 2-year deferral there. So the biggest deferral that's not included in the budget still comes down to the act, or I like to call it math pequata, but you heard it as the act. I think that's what AMC calls it. That is still a significant deferral. That's the biggest one out there. The other ones I think hold form, so you can use this as your talking points. The highlight is specific to Sherburne County. We have that $475,000 shift that other counties are not seeing. So that is unique to us. And I note that for you because really, in reality, 0.76 levy increases to address that. Without that, we would be well under 6% and in the mid-5s. So for comparative purposes, to the extent you're comfortable, I think that's a fair assessment, and apples to apples. We have to deal with that shift in in community corrections, and again, we're happy because it's less than we thought it would be. It was supposed to be $750,000. So that's kind of where we get uniquenesses. The other thing that a commissioner had asked is what is actually happening with staff levels. And so in the proposed budget, as it is today, we are actually reducing staff next year by 6.41 FTEs. There's also some additional personnel shifts that have cost savings. But when we actually look at the number of employees, it will go down next year. I won't go into the specific numbers, but just the positions so you understand them. Community Corrections Resource Officer, eliminated. Probation intern, unfunded. Building and Facilities Maintenance goes seasonal. Assessor, one position, eliminated. Sheriff's Office, 0.75 FTE eliminated. 1.5 FTEs in HHS positions eliminated. 0.25 shift in HHS, a full-time person going 3/4 time. 0.5 FTE reduction in planning and zoning, and a 1 FTE in public works. So these are real reductions in staffing next year. In addition, we're also seeing some other shifts. So HHS is taking 1 FTE position and recrafting it as 2 half-time positions. There's a significant savings from that. The IT department had a senior database administrator transition to a help desk support technician. HHS is shifting 1 FTE, what currently levy funded, to grant funded, which means if the grant runs out, we either eliminate it or come back to you. And we're doing job sharing, and that continues in the auditor, treasurer, and recorder's office, as well as in other areas as needed. So these are some pretty significant reductions in actual force that you can carry forward for next year. The last thing I'd note is Dan did put at the bottom for you some good information on the typical impact that we're seeing for our market valuations. What I would note is we had that 1 year where our total net tax capacity actually went down or was flat for a year. Now we're starting to see it go up. So that one reduction was, again, specifically related, and we can attribute it to the closing of Unit 2 at Sherco. We're going to see another year in 2028 when the second unit closes down, or actually Unit 1. But that 1 year dip in net tax capacity, we're now seeing the overall growth in the market in housing and new construction and rehabilitation, so we're back up. That benefit of that will, again, probably lower our effective tax rate, even with the levy amount going up. So at the bottom, for your talking points, you can see the typical impact on a $300,000 home of $50, a $500,000 home of $85. That is real money, and of course, it's going to be on top of school impacts and township impacts and new city of Baldwin impacts. Those things are real. And so I'm sure we're going to hear about it as well as what's happening at the state and federal level. The last thing I would note is if you actually take a look at your blue spreadsheet, this gives you the information by department comparing over the years, and you can see specifically some of those impact areas. And we've talked about them. So for instance, our county recorder has a very significant percentage increase. Dollar amount, it's not a lot, but our hope is that we'll see that adjust as requests for licenses, permits, and visas and passports go up or down in their particular areas. The other area that we saw the change again is community corrections, when I'm looking at your large percentage changes, and I think we've talked quite a bit about that. I would say that I'll speak for me, I won't speak for Dan. I'm not proud to bring this budget to you. It is tough. We haven't had a year like this in a long, long time, and I don't suspect it's going to be a one-year conversation. But I am proud of the effort that your staff put in to bring it to you, and I think it represents where we think we can continue to be a top-tier county, but still be very, very mindful of the cost shifts that we're asking our taxpayers to pay. So with that, we will stand for any questions you have. Otherwise, we would recommend setting this as the preliminary levy. We're still rattling a few cages and pillaging a few couches, and we may be able to do something more by December, but this would be the top end, obviously.
Mr. Chair, Just a couple clarifying questions from my part. On the headcount discussion, is that a reduction from currently staffed positions, or is that a reduction from the fully approved headcount, even if a few of those positions are not currently filled?
It would be approved to approved. So the total number of authorized headcounts will go down by 6.41. Amanda, how many vacancies did you say you have right now?
We probably have 6 to 7 right now.
So for instance, her actual staff to approved staff, she's running, instead of 200, she's running 194 right now.
Okay.
Yeah. There are a few of these that are being held vacant currently in anticipation of you approving the budget. But that means they obviously won't get filled.
Okay, so those are approved to approved.
Approved to approved.
Approved numbers, okay. The other question I had was on the cost shifts from the state. What's the current, so of the 6.49% levy increase, how many points of that are purely cost shifts from the state?
Of the budgeted cost shifts, 884,000, so about 1.4, 1.3. So you could reduce your levy by about 1.3 to 1.4.
Okay, I think that's important. And I think that's important to continue to point out, because those are the issues. So, had we not had those, we would be close to a 5% levy increase. The issue is, even though it's 1.4% this year, based on the out-year biennial, and depending on what happens with the act and other things, those pressures are going to continue. And so we need to continue to frankly fight those. And I think it's important to point out that a lot of our efforts at this time are trying to modify the language in existing legislation and existing state budgets in order to try to minimize the impact of those cost shifts. And that's something that we have to continue to be diligent on.
Yeah, and I don't want to also not note that part of that conversation next year might be also, how do we meet the mandate or try to meet the mandate? So the law doesn't say you must hire 12 people. So when we have conversations with Amanda next year, it might be, we're going to give it what we can, but we don't think, the taxpayers can afford 12 new people. So it's not just a cost shift, it's a service delivery conversation we have to have.
And that's a great point, because there was a presentation at AMC last week, and I'll bring it in for Amanda, but and they weren't very specific on what they did, but it was specifically around child outplacement services. And the county that presented had gone through some very, very specific procedural changes and hired some very specific consultants or services, and they were able to significantly decrease their costs. Now, it's going to get offset by some of the state shifts, but it was a pretty impressive story. And there may or may not be something there for us, but it's certainly worth investigating.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would say I'm very proud of the effort you guys put into this. I mean, you worked extremely hard, everybody all the way across. The staff worked very, very hard. But I would concur in the results. The results do not make me happy. It makes me more grumpy. Yeah, you can take the dwarves out of that. But, it is what we are being forced to do by the full set of circumstances that are involved in trying to set this year's budget and trying to make sure that we're still giving appropriate service to the county. So I think it's a really great job, but it's not, it's not what you wanted, but it's what you got to have. So I'm comfortable with it.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Schumacher.
I do want to say that, you know, the staff did a remarkable job. And when we look at not burning the furniture, we are burning some people's desks and furniture when you look around a department. And so there are the realization of the departments that are here when they're going to be working harder because there's going to be less FTEs to help them get that task done. And so there are some chairs and some desks that are getting burnt. And I do think that the staff is fully aware of next year. And it's got to be duplicated one more time with the same budget constraints that we're going to have. It's going to happen yet again. And so the writing's on the wall. And I think that, you know, as a total organization at the county, they all realize this, and they're all buckling down to figure out ways and things that we can do to better serve the constituents across the entire county. So I do want to say, you know, kudos to them, and it's a tough job. It's going to only get tougher in the next year and to finish the biennium for us.
And I think two things can be true at once. And those two things are, we can have people that are working extremely hard in very tough positions, as we talked about earlier, with outdated systems that is completely unacceptable, is entirely out of their control, and doing excellent work. And at the same time, not be happy with the percentage of the levy. Both things can be true, right? I do think that the work that has been done here has been very good work. I think it's very difficult work. I will say, having spoken with the department heads, you know, around the county, nobody is getting what they feel like they need to get their jobs done. Every single department head is saying, okay, is scratching out, okay, I got to figure out how to make this work. This is not a cakewalk. At the same time, our taxpayers have been hit time and time and time again, whether it's state tax increases, whether it's school board tax increases, whether it's levy tax increases, et cetera. We are one of the highest tax state in the country, and at some point something's going to break because it cannot continue. But I do think that the work here is solid work. It is our job to continue to find ways to drive costs down. It is our job to continue to push the state to fix things that they have broken, so that we can continue to push costs down. And it is our job to continue to find ways, very, very creative ways, to be more and more and more efficient, so that it's not just the taxpayers that have to burden this effort. So I think it's good work. Like I said, it's higher than I think any of us would like to see it. But I think the work here is solid work.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Thank you. I agree with everything that has been said. I think ultimately we have to make sure that we are always very clear on how we got here, and it's because the state decided to balance their budget on the backs of our property taxpayers. Plain and simple. And so you are correct, we're going to have to be dealing with this again next year because of the way that things will be implemented over time. And I just want to make sure at all times that we are keeping in front of us that we are a service-orientated entity by mandate on a lot of things, but we're here to serve the residents of Sherburne County, and that means people in our work environment and people that we are serving to meet their needs. So I don't want us to lose sight of that either. That is a very important aspect, that what we do can impact an individual, their family, seniors, children, people with disabilities. So I just want to make sure that we continually keep that in our minds as well. And then to continue to push the state. Do not balance your budget on the backs of our property taxpayers.
Yeah, I concur with everything that's been said here. I mean, I think, we are a service organization. We're losing 6.41 was the number you said. I always felt if we have a high levy, we're affecting people. If we cut the levy and cut people, we're affecting people. I mean, it's just the way it is. We've had the discussion of adding a line item on our tax statement, I think in regards to what these cost shifts are, the 1.38. Yes, it's 1.38%, I think is what Dan has on the back of this sheet as from the state. I think that should be addressed on the tax statement this year to let them, this 6.49 is not all us, it's somebody else. And next year, it could be definitely a higher number than 1.38 unless something changes. So I think we need to address that this year to get that people looking for that, what the state's doing to us, what they're forcing down, basically, hate to use the word, throw it down our throat to make sure our taxpayers pay the bill. But otherwise, yeah, the staff did great work. I think we might do this differently next year. We had multiple, have them come up with different numbers and work through 3 or 4 different scenarios. I think we give them the scenario and the number that we hope we can hit. That's my thought process on this. Instead of them trying to figure out what we want, let us tell them what we want from the start, so they directly go from there instead of going through a whole bunch of work that might not be approved. But other than that, has anybody got any more questions?
Yeah, one quick question. The 1.4%, that's new mandates, correct? Okay, so but if we are gonna put this on our tax statement, I'd like to put the full amount of the tax that's if we could calculate that.
Well, that'll take till next year, but I'm sure you heard at AMC where they have a whole effort trying to figure out how to really capture mandates, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
we could, if we're gonna put that on there, let's make sure that they know it's just new mandates, because so much of what we're having to bill people for is the stuff that we have to do, right? So, anyhow.
Yeah, I think something needs to be put on there just so people are starting
Yeah,
to look for
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
So they're starting.
It's a
to
good
look.
start.
Yep.
Yep, and I agree. I'd like to have us take a look at what Stearns County does. I happened to see one for our lake property, and they are they put out a really good list of why this levy is here and where it comes from. So let's kind of take a look at that and do some replication of it.
With that, Mr. Chairman,
Okay, Commissioner Schumacher.
motion to approve resolution number 091625-AD-3238, certifying the 2026 property tax levy at $66,842,284 as recommended.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Second, seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
And a postmortem thank you to you guys for sticking with us through a lot of budget discussions, and to the department heads who really run the organization for you, and you know who they are. So thank you, team, for a lot of good effort this year.
I think we have the easy part. And it's just that we might have to answer to a lot more questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. North Star.
North Star.
Keisha, can you, do you have the initials? I'm blanking out on RH. Who's, oh, Ryan, thank you. I didn't get it there, so thanks, Ryan. I just want to introduce, we have some folks electronically on with us to listen and to participate as you need appropriate. So I just want to introduce everybody here. So Dave Green is on. Dave's with Met Transit or Metro Transit or Metro Bus, you might know it as St. Cloud, and has been a partner with us for quite a while. Sarah is with MnDOT Transit, specifically sometimes it's called Rural Transit. MnDOT has authority for transit outside of other specialized or identified transit areas. And so Sarah's been absolutely amazing to work with here the last couple months as we've looked at this, because for so long, the North Star and the Link have been managed under kind of its own animal, and now it really falls to this area that's not in the 7-county metro area, so we've had to figure out relationships again. Ryan is with the Met Council, and Ryan has been super helpful in getting all of the details together with us, and then Craig Lamont is also with the Met Council and have been just absolutely amazing along with Adam, of really helping us get everything put together. So first of all, I'd like to just offer the opportunity if any of the four of you want to say hi to the commissioners before I jump into the meat and potatoes here.
Sure,
We'll go Sarah first. Go ahead.
okay. Thanks for the introduction, Bruce, and I'd like to say the same. Really have appreciated working with Bruce and the county on this, and thanks for having us here to talk to be listeners to you all and to be a part of the conversation. Again, my name is Sarah Gondor, and I'm with MnDOT, and I'm the director of the Office of Transit and Active Transportation. So like Bruce said, provide supporting the transit systems outside of the metropolitan area, of which we have 35.
Thank you so much. All right, Ryan.
Good morning, Ryan Heath, Metro Transit Service Development. So I've been working with Adam Harrington, our department director, and Craig and Bruce on these iterations of our service plan. And I really appreciate the consideration today and all the teamwork from this group and Bruce especially. Thank you.
All right. Dave, Craig, you guys can jump in later, but thanks again for participating. So what I'm going to do is go through a slide deck that is mostly 99% created by Metro Transit Met Council that lays out a service proposal. I will start with a hierarchy for you because it's as complicated as North Star, or almost as complicated. So because of the way the legislature dissolved or allowed for the dissolution of North Star, we ended up with this unique situation where transit services for Sherburne County, absent the North Star commuter rail, fall under MnDOT because we're not part of the 7-county metro area, which falls under the Metropolitan Council. The Metropolitan Council operated the North Star commuter rail service under agreement with MnDOT and ultimately the state legislature. That goes away. What we're going to be discussing today is the possibility of a new partnership that would be between MnDOT and the Metropolitan Council to allow the Met Council to extend bus service into Sherburne County as a successor for North Star. The other piece of this is that we have worked with Metro Bus to run the link down to Big Lake. At this time, Metro Bus does not see that bus service continuing from St. Cloud. Maybe in the future, we don't know, but they have been especially gracious partners with us, and they also recognize the transition, and they are in conversation with both MnDOT and the Met Council regarding the assets and the knowledge of that service and how that may also help us. And then finally, partnership locally. Just like with North Star and with the North Star Link, there is a local participation being envisioned here. That is Sherburne County. It is not, I will tell you financially, the cities. They have not been a part of this. And we do not know what the long-term relationship would look like because, again, bus relationships are different. But there's been some good learning in this that will come back at the end of this conversation. First of all, while the Elk River population is in part of the planning district for Metropolitan Council, we now have confidence that operationally there is not a bunch of money that's being brought into the Met Council simply because Elk River's there. It's simply a planning function. But it does mean that there is a relationship there that we can build upon. The second thing I think that we have learned is that expectations of bus service wherever the service district is, so let's just say the Metropolitan Council area, they will build a bus service that best services those 7 counties. It doesn't mean every city or every community gets a bus service. They come and go as demand dictates and allows and as opportunity allows. There are communities in the metropolitan area that also subsidize buses because they would like a service that otherwise, absent their involvement, would not be there. So that was good for us because my assumption, and I will be the first to admit it, was, well, you have to service right up to Elk River because that's right where the 7-county metro ends. They technically don't. They have to address the services, but that's why you'll see Ramsey as being the natural stop there. So even if we said Elk River should be serviced by the Met Council, it doesn't automatically result in them just doing it. There's a whole bunch of economics and efficiencies and things that they would have to look at as well. So with that education and that understanding, we were able to come to a couple of ideas for the board to consider today. With that, we'll go to the first slide and just very quickly go through these, Keisha. Oh, thank you. When did you sneak over here? Did I miss that? Wow, I really am in the zone today, aren't I? Rand's laughing at me. You might want to move the bar just so the commissioners can see the totals. When we looked at North Star ridership, and again, what we're talking about here is a transition from commuter rail, which has been on essentially life support since COVID, to some sort of reasonable bus service. And what this shows you is the current most accurate numbers. These aren't historic. But what this tells you is the Big Lake and Elk River subtotals are basically about 50% of the ridership on North Star right now. So you can see Ramsey, Anoka, Coon Rapids, those 51, 67, 26, they're mirrored pretty much by us. And so the idea is if you just run up to Ramsey, essentially 50% of your ridership may be left without options other than driving to Ramsey. So there was a recognition by all the parties that there is a significant number of folks per day on average that are needing or using public transit. That being said, Andrew, are you going to correct me here?
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's also important to note these numbers too, because those help us dictate and not dictate, but take a look at the number of buses, knowing that there is a limited capacity, obviously, to a bus. So some of these numbers are based on the 95th percentile and were used in taking a look at some of the bus schedules, knowing that we need to make sure that there is a seat for our riders the majority of the time.
Thank you. So what we originally talked about is what the Met Council's plan is to replace the Met Transit, the North Star commuter rail. And they've come up with the 888 is the bus route that they're planning on running from Ramsey down to Marquette Avenue and 4th Street north of Hennepin in that area. So Marquette Avenue and 6th. That allows folks then to exchange in the downtown area. We originally proposed or said, well, why don't you just extend that up to Elk River? And they said, yeah, we can do that, but you're talking about a 70-minute ride from Elk River. That's about 19 minutes over direct route service, so that adds time to get from there down to Ramsey. And that runs about 27 minutes longer compared to the North Star time. In transit language, that extra half an hour is probably a deal killer for most folks. At that point, you would just simply drive. Now, again, it doesn't mean people from Elk River can't drive to Ramsey, park there, and get on the bus. But just the simple extension to Elk River was a little bit troublesome from that additional time. In addition, and this is my language, and I apologize to my partners here, I just wanted to put it on without generating another slide. It would add about 85 minutes if you started that same extension in Big Lake. So you went Big Lake to Elk River to Ramsey. For that reason, when we first proposed this, they said, well, if you want to service Elk River, you could extend 888 and you can run a separate bus just from Big Lake called 884. That is expensive because it's a standalone bus and it, again, only serves Big Lake. So we kind of went, this doesn't really feel like it meets our needs. But this was our first request, simply extend from Ramsey up to Elk River and possibly to Big Lake. What is being looked at then was a separate route, 886, that could run from Elk River directly to downtown with trip time of about 60 minutes, which is not far off of North Star. The match could be 3 trips per day, per direction per day, which would be North Star. And the expanded service could be, again, possibly going up to 6 trips per day with buses. That was more in line with replacement, so a bus replacing that. When we looked at this, then we said, well, we're kind of losing the Big Lake folks. They would have to drive to Elk River. And so what we did is we worked up this recommendation for you, and that would be to start a bus on what's now called 882, Big Lake to Elk River to Minneapolis. Big Lake time would be about 77 minutes and about 51 minutes for Elk River. The options would allow us to do 2 or 3 round trips per day that we could then match with prime time work and start time. So those would still be determined over the next several weeks. This also would allow the flexibility for a couple of things to occur. One, depending upon traffic patterns and construction, this bus could go down the 101 and 94 for time because it's not stopping anywhere else, or it can continue down 10 and down as well. That really allows some flexibility to maximize drive time for our commuters. In addition, you'll notice this currently uses the Elk River substation. That would be the plan to start, but during a pilot phase, we may look at whether it makes sense, and this is something the city has indicated might be of interest, in a downtown stop, in which case the current park and ride could be used for other purposes. So it gives us some flexibility because it does add a little time for that Big Lake bus to go through Elk River, stop at the park and ride, and then get back on 10 or go down 101. So there's a little of added time using the current station, and that could change over time. The other thing that could happen is if they use the Highway 10 route, depending on loads, there may be a single stop, like maybe a Coon Rapids stop on the way. That could be added. So the flexibility is there as we move forward. But what we came up with was to service both the Big Lake and the Elk River communities, knowing that this made kind of sense. Looks like, Keisha, we didn't get the heat map in this one. Did you upload the most current one? I don't think I've got... No, we don't have the heat map. So I do have a heat map that I'll send out to you that shows where the park and ride folks are, and it's pretty telling. But, you know, there's clearly an area around Big Lake. People come in and park in Big Lake, come in and park in Elk River. So I think the partners all felt the heat map probably fit pretty good. Ryan may have popped it up. Hey, Ryan, do you have it quick that we could grab your screen? If not, it's not a big deal. But we do have a heat map that we used as well.
I think it may be a little earlier in the deck there.
Oh, keep going down, down to 4. 4. There it is. Keisha will blow it up here. So I thought this was really interesting. So you see the green is the Big Lake Station, and the orange is the Elk River Station. But look where folks are driving from right now. So Zimmerman is quite an area, the lakes area around Big Lake. And we even have folks in purple that are driving to Ramsey, which could theoretically stop again at Elk River. So it really would service that population in those corridors if we did this. Okay, thanks for correcting me on that. So what we developed, and this really, I think, speaks to the power of partnership. What we decided is for service, maximum service planning, we would recommend a 2-year pilot. It doesn't mean if things go off the rails quickly, we choose to make it shorter, but for planning purposes and budgeting purposes and buses in particular, we would look at recommending a 2-year pilot for 26 and 27. We would be monitoring, just as we are now, monthly ridership and reporting to you as well as to the respective boards, and see if this particular option works. Operating costs are significantly less, obviously, than light rail. Current year, and the Met Council is willing to lock in their current year rate of $230, $268 per in-service hour, because there are some deadhead hours on this. And then they have already projected what that looks like in 27. What this would allow us to do is to operate on the working days, 255 days, and no weekend service. In conversations about the budget, I was blown away that the MnDOT, even though they never were able to add to their budget this year, in fact, their budget got cut, but recognizing the service area is willing to partner with us at a 50% rate to pay for the bus for the pilot years. And remember, MnDOT transit budget actually got cut last year, and they're suggesting that they would spend money on this corridor when they never were able to include it in their budget proposal at all. So that was pretty remarkable. In addition, there's some really interesting synergies here. If we did the pilot, we would be able to use Metro Transit fares and passes that are currently out there for an easy transition to North Star. They wouldn't have to turn them in, they could actually just continue to use them. Instead of using them on the train, they now use them on the bus. Ironically, it's going to get cheaper. $325 is the express route fare. That is, the current fare is $625 and $475, depending on where you get on the train right now. That would allow folks to use MetroPass, the multi-day passes, and the discount programs, including mobility assistance and transit assistance. So the ridership, because they're on a bus, even though there might be a little bit of a downside, a few minutes, the cost is going to be able to go down. And then free transfers are also allowed within 2.5 hours. So it's a seamless transition. The buses have fare boxes on them currently. We don't have to go through any other changes. One of the challenges we ran into is this will require 3 or 4 buses, depending upon the option selection, and that is the operating buses plus a spare. The Metropolitan Council proposes that they would contribute to this pilot project by offering use of their current fleet of buses. So that is very helpful. There are some aging fleet buses, and they're looking at coach buses versus the plastic ones. 2 or 3 years down the road, if this is successful, then we're going to get in the conversation about buses. But right now, they believe they can accommodate the request in their fleet. There's also good conversations with what happens to the North Star Link buses. So there's a lot of good opportunities here. But again, amazed at the partnership. They're like, yeah, we can make this work. So there's no capital acquisition being requested up front. So here's the service cost estimates. If we ran 2 trips per day, and this is Big Lake to Elk River to Minneapolis, the estimated cost is $325,000. MnDOT has positioned that they would split that cost with Sherburne County, 50-50. Second year would be $395,000, so a total of $720,000, and that we can divide again in half for our total expenditure for the pilot time. If the board feels that you would like to do 3 trips a day, which would match North Star, the price goes up to $487,000 and $590,000 respectively, or about an outlay of $500,000. Fare revenues will offset that. We don't have good estimates right now. Probably, in the $40,000 to $50,000 range is reasonable for fares. But again, if ridership drops, then we don't, fares go down. But there would be an offset. And these would be refined in, obviously, the agreements that would have to be hammered out between MnDOT, the Met Council, and then MnDOT and us as the local partner. The initial thought was we thought 2 trips per day made sense, given those ridership numbers you saw. But folks at the Met Council were able to refine it and figure out that we could do 3 with the staff level target we had put, which was a not to exceed for consideration of $500,000. So $250 for the county. What we really need to do is, because time is of the essence and we would want a seamless transition, would be to see if the board is comfortable recommending 1 or 2 and supporting 1 or 2 of the options. There would have to be a fairly quick flurry, and we'll give Don some extra oxygen because we'll have to do some more agreements, put those in place. Service would actually begin on the 5th of January, so North Star Rail would end on the 3rd. The 2nd, right? The 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th? Yeah, that Friday, excuse me, and then depending on the Vikings game, the game, there'll be one last train, and then on the 5th of January, the buses would start. And I have one seat reserved on the bus for the first bus for a certain county commissioner who indicated that he would ride with me down to Minneapolis. Then in addition, because this is a pilot, no, it wasn't you. It's a pilot, we would do evaluations, and these would be intensive evaluations. So in addition to the monthly reviews, at 12, 18, and obviously 24 months, and to make sure that this is either a viable bus route or like transit services do all over the state, if it's not viable, it goes away. That's the bottom line. Buses come and go, or bus lines come and go, depending upon service, demand, all those things. We do have the options again. We could look at fare adjustments because it's lower. We could raise it because it is a longer ride. We can adjust for travel times, trip schedules. Park and rides are still to be determined. And again, routing south of Elk River, which is that idea that the city has of maybe a downtown station. So the proposal is a pilot project. The intent would be a 2-year pilot project. The outlay would be funded through local option sales tax, which is authorized for transit expenditures. Andrew and I do believe the budget is sufficient to cover it without hurting the road and bridge projects, because we've been running over, as you know, our estimate on local option sales tax, so there would not be an impact to the levy. And the partners all know that down the road, we have to figure out what that local support looks like long-term. There are communities that don't support it and get service through MnDOT, and there are others that contribute. So we'll have to look at those models. Very, very cost-effective versus North Star, and I think for our riding public and for the transition, it makes a lot of sense to consider the pilot. The question for the board is, are you comfortable with doing that? And then would you prefer a 2 bus per day or a 3 bus per day route? And while you ponder that, let me ask if our partners want to jump in at all, and Keisha, if you want to pull them back up. I'm sure I messed something up, Ryan, because you're the brilliant guy, so.
Bruce, I think that was spot on. You did emphasize the flexibility. Metro Transit, we regularly evaluate our service and make adjustments based on demand or changing market conditions. So for us, this would be a continuation of that. And we would look forward to partnering with MnDOT and the county on those evaluations and hopefully strengthening the service as we learn what the demand and market will be for a bus replacement.
And then Sarah, I spoke on behalf of you several times, so I should make sure you're okay with that.
I thought you did a great job, Bruce. I wouldn't change anything. Just to emphasize, that we at MnDOT feel like this is a good sort of mitigation and gives us time to again evaluate ridership need, transit need, and give us all time then to if it's successful, time to think what is then the long-term solution.
With that, we'll answer any questions you have or hear what the commissioners think.
Mr. Chair, when we talked about the challenges with the rail and the cost of the rail, I'd always envisioned that we would at least attempt to replace it with some sort of bus service. And I think I like how this is set up as a pilot project. I like that, not to create a pun, but there's an off-ramp if it doesn't work. So we can be really fiscally responsible about this. I think there's some options. We're gonna have to be creative in how we find money, as we talked about, a few moments ago on our budgets. We're gonna have to be creative on how we find money to make this work. But I think we can do it without the levy, at least for a pilot project. So I think this is. The other thing that we don't know is how willing are riders going to be to transition to a bus service. So we just don't know. And I think by actively watching this and by actively looking at what the ridership is, we can make some good decisions. Is there a possibility, because we're going to start this in the winter, if it seems like it's going well, is there a possibility at looking at special event buses?
I'll ask maybe Ryan to jump in on that, but I should also introduce Mr. Ryan Daniel, who joined us. Ryan is the CEO of St. Cloud Metrobus, so he is also on the line. And again, we've appreciated the partnership with Metrobus. And, you know, we have conversed about what this means for the St. Cloud ridership, but we'll leave that for a separate topic. But Ryan, do you want to talk about special events and what the possibilities are, or Sarah?
Thank you. So currently, from the Metro Transit perspective, we aren't contemplating special event service. I would say once we get into the actual bus replacement service, we would be very willing to re-entertain that discussion.
Okay. So, if I may, I mean, I'm just looking, I took a quick look at this, and my math could be off, there's no question. But like for the 3 bus service, if I'm trying to look at it, take our half, and then 51 riders, about 220 days a year, work days roughly. I'm coming up with over $5,500 a year supplement for each person that rides that bus. And that could be wrong.
No, that's high. I think it's probably 550. You're off by a factor of 10, I bet.
I'm off by a factor of
Yeah.
10. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and they use 255 work days, but yeah, I mean, bus,
work days? Okay.
yeah, bus transit is subsidized, so you are correct.
Yeah, I mean, so we're definitely still subsidizing it, and it's money that we could be otherwise using for, that makes a lot more sense as a number. Other road projects, right? So, I would like to see it, especially when it's only $550, which is, once again, when I'm hammering things out on my calculator quick, that's not hard to imagine. If we could compensate for that in the fares, you know, I mean, that the fares actually pay for the bus service, you know, that would be, to me, the most equitable way to put it in for the taxpayers, right? Because that, I mean, it's money that could go for other infrastructure otherwise, you know? We just had to spend a little extra on our bridge today, so, you know, I always want to think of where we might need that from.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Schumacher.
I'd like to thank the partners that are online with us today and putting this together. It is, you know, essential for the community as it is transition. And I think what the administrator was referring to is the app that's on my phone. Pull up for the record, it's my Metro Transit app with my credit card linked in, so I can just hop on and take a ride. But with that being said, District 5 is not, I mean, I seen a couple dots there, and I mean, the screen, I could have been squinting with the bifocals, but I couldn't see enough dots to offset the impact. And so I just want to thank the partners, thanks to staff for putting this together. I not only a supporter, but of my personal life, but I just am on the other side of good money at a bad problem.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. The 550 per rider supplement that you calculate, that was per year?
Per year.
Yeah, I haven't calculated, but I know the scale is different, because we're only talking, you know, the two bus option is $250,000, so it just doesn't, you know.
Well, I just want to put it in perspective. The North Star Rail, the supplement was about $4,600 per person per month.
Wait.
Right, so it's orders of magnitude difference. Now there are lots of things that we do, and I agree with what you're saying. But I think in this particular case, because it's a pilot project, we can see how there's not necessarily any infrastructure that needs to go in with it, right? Because the partners we're using existing infrastructure. This is truly, because of their cooperation, a pilot project with very, very minimal investments. And it'll either work or it won't, And like I said, so this is something that it is a from a public transit standpoint, it is the definition of a minimal investment. The supplement is exceedingly small compared to other forms of transit. There is, and I don't know what the math is, there is something to be said for reducing the number of cars on the road. You still have a bus that's utilizing the infrastructure and creating wear and tear, but there is math that goes along with that. I don't know what that math is, and I'm not saying it would offset that supplement. But what I would say in this particular case, I think it is worth running the pilot project. I would want us to run it in such a way to make it give it the best opportunity to be successful. So my inclination is to run the three times a day effort, just from a pilot project standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, and those sort of things. I want to try to make this successful, but like I said, if we get 6 months into this, if we get 8, 9 months into this, and nobody's riding it, shut it down, right? So it gives us a lot of flexibility, and I think it gives us the opportunity to be smart about how we do this, and it's so much more efficient and so much more. It's a much better way to run a pilot project like this, just because, like I said, there is no major infrastructure investment whatsoever. It's literally, we're going to run the buses, and if it works, it works.
So, Greg, I just kind of did the math. If we just took the exact number of riders, it's per day, and did it times the 255, it's 37,740 trips.
Okay.
Just, again, this is perfect world, everybody rides every day. Divide that by the 487, it comes out to $13 per day per rider. It's the subsidy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's, yeah.
Yeah, so it's, and to the point is, I think the partners all felt like there might be I think we all feel like there might be a fare increase. It's almost like a woohoo, because the Met Council currently has that fare already structured. We just carried over. So whether that's a mid-year adjustment or a second-year adjustment, I think there is some ability to talk about a higher fare. But I would just,
That's annual.
I would just note that typically transit systems, the fare revenues offset between 10 and 20% of total costs. So it is a subsidized system, as is highways. Highways are subsidized. It's just reality. But yeah, the efficiency factor, Commissioner Hulse, is kind of key here. I also think it's a transition period. Are we going to have these long-haul commuters? If we don't, we don't. Then we know. But the worst case is we tried. So.
So then at 255 times 13, the annual comes up to 3315. So that's,
Less than
I
the
mean.
monthly charge of the North
Huh?
Star. That's less than the monthly charge of a North Star.
Oh, absolutely, no, yeah, I'm just saying, but I just like to advocate for making it pay for itself, but it is not a significant supplement, no.
And I did the total. I didn't cut it in half either. So our investment is half of what I said. So that was the total cost.
Oh, okay, so we're looking at 15
yeah.
and 16 something.
Yeah, because MnDOT's, putting in some money, but it's still taxes. As one brave commissioner said that one day, right? A tax is a tax, right? So.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Thank you.
1657.
I would like to see us support this pilot program, just to see from what Mr. Witter said, we can take the funds out of our sales tax transportation budget, so it would not have a levy impact. We will be able to monitor it if we don't see it operating or performing like we would hope it would. We can stop the pilot. I just think that we need to provide something, because there are people that they don't drive. and it gives them an opportunity to get to work or into the metro and back out. So I would hope that we would support this pilot program, see how it functions, and like has been said many times, transportation across the board is a subsidized entity.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we need to try, and like Andrew said, if it doesn't work after 6, 8, 9 months, you know, you move on. But as commissioners, not only do we support our districts, you know, I agree with Brad, you know, there's not many coming from Clear Lake and St. Cloud, you know, to Big Lake to use it, but there are a few, but we still have to do what's best for the county as a total. So I think supporting this is, you know, we can't go from having the light rail to nothing. I think you have to offer something or at least make the attempt. So the pilot program, I think, is the way to go.
I think, yeah, and I would say give it a year as a number, you know, give it at least that full year to see how people respond.
For the seasons and
If
all
we're
that.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Gotcha.
All right, so I guess I'm looking for a motion to proceed with a pilot project for planning purposes, 2 years, but evaluations obviously as quick and as reasonably as possible. And it's, I heard 3 trips per day versus the 2 trips per day option.
Yeah, and I think what I'd like to do is, also I'll make the motion, but what I'd like to do is maybe I know we get our reports monthly on the ridership of the North Star, and we always have. But it would be nice if we could have a standing update, maybe once a quarter.
Yep.
On just what we're seeing. It could be a 5-minute update as part of the board meeting. And since this is a pilot project, that forces us to keep it in front of us, and we can just see how things proceed. But I'd make the motion to proceed with the pilot, 3 trips a day, with quarterly updates as part of the board meeting.
I think that's, I should wait for a second, I'm sorry.
We have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Danielowski.
I think that's exceptionally reasonable. Originally, I'd proposed to the Met Council a 6-month deep dive, and what they said is they're deep dives. So, you know, we'll do the quarterly reports just to make sure it's upfront and thinking, but that first really detailed assessment will probably be after Greg's first year, as he mentioned, so.
Yep.
All right.
thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Just want to thank the partners that are online. Appreciate everything you've done.
And Brad, I'll see you on the first bus.
First bus, I'll be
All
there.
right.
Got my transit card ready.
He's got his transit card, so
Ready. Yep. All
thank you guys. Really appreciate everything you've done, and I'll do an after-action quick report for our partners. Thank you again.
You guys have to
Thank you.
dial up a little ZZ Top.
Thank you.
All
right.
on? Lord have mercy. been
Moving
waiting for
on
the
to
bus all
Commissioner
day.
correspondence, committee reports, upcoming meetings.
I'll jump in real quick.
You want to go first?
I do. I want to go first. I want to go fast.
Holy buckets.
I do want to bring up, really on the committee, on the reports, I want to talk really primarily about a couple of things with respect to AMC. And I know we're all probably going to talk about it anyway, but one of the things that Sherburne County, we as a group are leading is the effort to try to lift the nuclear power moratorium in the state. This is critical, I think, to our county, even as we're looking at the reduction in activity at the Sherco facilities. This is an effort that we have made a top priority within the county. What I would like to see, and Commissioner Gray and I talked about this before the meeting, I would like us to do we signed on to the Nuclear Alliance. We said informally we would be happy to have a home facility in our county. To Bruce's point that he's made in the past, Elk River was originally the home to the first nuclear reactor in the state, for those of you that don't know. So I would like to see us do a formal resolution endorsing lifting the nuclear moratorium and stating our willingness to have a facility in the county. I would also like us to send a letter to each of the other 86 counties and encouraging them to do the same thing. So that is a big project, and that significantly moves the needle for the state. One thing that was brought up in my meetings last week on lifting the moratorium that we had not talked about previously is with all the transmission lines that are being put in, there is significant transmission loss. So one of the things that is happening, because the generating facilities are being moved out of the state into the Dakotas, et cetera, we're losing a significant portion of the energy that's being produced by those facilities because of the distance that power is having to be transited over the transmission lines. So that's another important component that we need to be thinking about as well. So that's piece number one, is the nuclear moratorium lift. Second piece is I want to make sure that we are actively working with our representatives on enabling data centers to be attractive to this county. We are uniquely positioned because of our climate for investment in data centers. And there's pushback by some counties in the state that they don't want data centers, and that's fine, that we'll take them. They are significant investments. Speaking with Representative Meckland, you know, some of the, and I'm not sure that I have the numbers exactly correct, but I think what he told me was like the 10-year investment of one of the data centers that we lost was something on order of magnitude of like, I think he told me $32 billion that would have been invested in the county. That's an unbelievable amount of investment. There were like there was a loss of permanent jobs, 10 years worth of construction. The investment in the county that was lost because of some of the legislative changes that took place at the state is almost unfathomable on what we lost from an investment standpoint. That would have offset taxes, property taxes, for the taxpayers of the county. If we want to truly have a significant impact on lowering property taxes for our residents, things like data centers are key in order to be able to do that, as are investments in things like nuclear power plants. So from my perspective, Sherburne County is actively leading these efforts, and these are big swings and these are big changes that are trying to be driven at the state, but I think it's something that we must continue to do. We can't sit back and wait for it to happen or have somebody else do it. I'm happy with where we are, but these are big lift items, and I want us to continue to be in front of these.
I'm intrigued. Did Matt's discussion of data centers at general government, did it go well?
Like I said, it was interesting. There was more pushback than I expected from some counties, because some counties don't want them.
Yeah.
And my impression is that those counties that their concerns, the counties that are concerned about the data centers were primarily focused around two pieces. One was use of natural resources. So they're concerned because they are significant. They use a significant amount of water for cooling systems and those sort of things. So they were concerned about that. But I think their pushback is more around just wanting to know answers to those questions, not necessarily feeling that they're a bad neighbor. But they just have questions that they want answered. The other question the other pushback came from came more around a question of, is it a viable market? And I'll give you an example. I was leading the discussion, and one commissioner asked, well, how many data centers do we need? They build these 3, is that the end of it? And I'm like, well, no, there's going to be thousands of data centers built, over the next several years. So this isn't a one-time, they build you know, they build one data center and that's all you ever need. It reminds me of when one of the major I think it was IBM, when they were doing their market research, when they were building one of their first computers, their head of R&D contemplated that all the world would ever need was maybe 5 computers. Well, turns out that's not the case. And that's sort of where we're at with data centers. You know, it's not you just build one. This is a significant industry that we in Minnesota, because of our climate, our proximity to water, used to be our proximity to power, but we are uniquely positioned to take advantage of, and it can have a significant impact on lowering the tax burden on our residents.
I just want to add one caveat. I think sending out the letter to the other 86 counties is good, but I think it should be signed by all 5 commissioners to show our unison in regards to this.
The nuclear moratorium.
Right, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Are you done? Brad?
Thank you. Mine will actually be shorter because you guys put me in Health and Human Services. So I was at the AMC conference in Health and Human Services. They genuinely love my personality. And so we worked really hard in the study group in the session, and I felt like it was really good. I'll share the secret that I shared with them that most people won't do. Health and Human Services always starts with a fresh night of sleep. And we all could be healthier if at sunset we set down our iPhones and we don't scroll social media and we don't scroll the news, because you know what? All it is taking away from the fundamental, back to the basics, a good night's sleep, and start off everything in a day better. And when you can process, whether it's CNN, Fox News, whatever it is in the morning, you have a whole day to process it down and dial it down. So I suggested it. It fell on deaf ears like it is now. So anyway, then moving on, it was a great conference, and I thank you guys for Health and Human Services. I'm excited to go back next year and do the same group. I'm sure they'll be just waiting for me to come again. And I met with the City of Baldwin City Council member, and I was at the City of Zimmerman last night, and I think that's it.
Okay. Greg, Rand?
I do have to say,
Rand?
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Schumacher also shared his thoughts with us at breakfast. And we actually, I think, responded well because what he's saying makes sense. And we were particularly looking at one of our commissioners to make sure that they did that so they could get a good night's sleep. Commissioner Felber. Because he'll get into social media and he'll just get all wound up, and it's like not good for sleeping. So it wasn't that it fell on deaf ears at our table, at least. So, okay. Getting back to all right, so had my Central Minnesota Council on Aging board meeting on September 4th. Also, we had our APO policy board meeting up in St. Cloud. We had to move it because of the AMC Fall Conference. Normally it's the second Thursday of the month, but we were all up in Alexandria. September 9th had my community advisory meeting for the Big Lake schools. And then September 10th, I did the online NACO CEWD committee meeting, which is Economic Workforce Development. And then I also attended a webinar that morning as well, Signals from DC in regards to federal freight rail outlook. And there was some really good information, and I know that and our Public Works Director, Mr. Witter, he attended as well. I was mainly looking at any ways to gather any opportunities for grants to deal with our County Road 11 and Highway 10 and such. So it was a very, very, very good webinar. September 10th through the 12th, the AMC Fall Policy Conference, as we've been talking about. I had a 7:45 a.m. Meeting for housing and on Thursday morning, and that was very well attended. We weren't, I am the chair of the subcommittee for the housing development and the needs that we are facing in the state. And we weren't sure what we would get for attendance, but it's amazing. We got an across-the-board attendance of not all 87 counties, but there were sectors in every county was in a sector. And we are all in the same boat. And it was really good to share some information as to what some counties are doing. One of the things I'm looking forward to seeing is there's actually been a study done on what the return on investment is when you invest in housing as a government entity, especially for a county. This is somewhat new to us in regards to what role can we play to help assist to moving this needle of making it more affordable for someone to come in and build housing of your needs. And we have all known that our housing study shows that we have a significant need across the board at every level of housing in our county. And so it was really, I'm looking forward to that getting published because there is a return on investment. It is showing that it does help move that needle, and you do get that dollar back and then some in regards to your housing. Then the rest of the day, Thursday and Friday, my normal assignment is transportation. And so we had our meetings and stuff, and we're pretty much we're just wanting to hang on to what we got last year because they are looking at trying to take some of it away. And then just making sure, one of the things that came up is the credits in regards to when you do a road project and if it impacts a wetland. It's a 2-to-1 that you have to buy land to replace a wetland if you impact it. Some of the concerns were that the Corps of Army Engineers is interpreting the language for that is if you are going to add a turn lane and you have a wetland area that was created by that roadway development, that you have to do a 2-to-1 replacement on a wet area that gets a lot of salt from the winter removal. Are you really trying to promote a healthy wetland, or is this just something that was created through development and is not a pristine actual wetland? So they're looking to move that to be a 1-to-1 as versus a 2-to-1. So we'll see where that goes. And all in all, I think it was a very good conference. Had a lot of great discussion and input, and looking forward to seeing what gets set in stone at our December conference to bring to the legislature next year. And I do agree, we do have to start pushing. I know there were certain things we have to get the modernization of our HHS and the green screens and stuff, but I do think it's important that we get on top of the lifting the mandate for nuclear energy. We have got to be a part of making sure that we have a solid grid. And also doing the data centers. I think there's a lot of information that needs to be shared, what it is these impacts are. These data centers are very good at recycling their water, and there's like what Commissioner Hull said, a lot of people just don't know enough about them.
And let me just throw out one little tidbit. So when we were having those discussions, I guess at NACO, there was a discussion on data centers. And this is one county, and it's anecdotal information. But the investment that they got in data centers in that county, they were able to cut their levy in half. So their property taxes went down by half because of the investment in data centers. That's the order of magnitude of things that we're talking about.
Yep. And at the same time, with the lifting of a moratorium on nuclear energy, I'd have to say when we see some of the increases that are being proposed by Excel, for example, that's asking for one right now, they're significant. And you get your electric bill, and I don't know about you, but mine is pretty healthy. And I don't know how a lot of people are affording that, and that's before an increase. So if we can help prop up the energy grid by nuclear, I think that would help offset energy costs as well. That's about it. Thank you.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I got my timer set for 7 minutes.
Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm gonna start with just a really quick comment on data centers.
I got to start.
I'll start with a really quick comment on data centers. Data centers, they're gonna get built, either here or they're gonna get built someplace else. We have to have them.
Oh, yeah.
And if you are complaining about data centers on social media, you're missing the point. Because social media would not exist without the current existing data centers, and that's some of why we need more. Sherburne County Safe Roads, we discussed problem areas in the county and stop arm violations. Again, those are still a problem. We need a couple of pedal cars, and we should really, if it'd be great if we could get them through private donations, but other than that, I think we should really get, the pedal cars are used at these various events in conjunction with like the glasses that make you feel like you're intoxicated, and it gives you an idea of, it's a great learning aid, particularly for kids or for anyone. But right now, we're having to go borrow our pedal cars, and so we're not able to use them as much as we'd like. They're only like $1,250 a piece, so hopefully somebody will donate the money to get those. It would be ideal. NACO Public Safety, Victims of Crime Act, that's going through the Congress right now, so, and that's a really important one. We're hoping that that one will pass. The Fixing Emergency Management for Americans FEMA Act, that's another one that NACO is really pushing for, and there is a letter on the NACO share file to write to your congressman and use, because this is really super important, fixing FEMA. FEMA simply does not function. I had a visit at Central Bus on 9/8, a new company with Jason Anderson and Justin Robinson. Dan Weber and Brian and I went out there, and it's really a neat new facility. I'm really looking forward to their open house. It's really, they're in bus maintenance and bus sales. Let's see. Then I sat through a climate and energy webinar from the Union of Concerned Scientists, and the big takeaways for me there is that low probability is a misnomer for extreme weather events. They're up 67%. In climate outages from years 2000 to 2020, like we were talking about earlier. It's not only just voltage drop over the lines, it's the fact that we may be cut off from them. So these are very significant considerations in the grid, and another reason why we probably want to have that nuclear power option, because it always works. We met with the Just Transition Fund folks who are coming here to do one of their like their conference for the year. That was really good. With Audrey Joseph Day, Rachel Young, Heidi Binko, Dan Weber, and Brian Fleming and I met with them, and as well as Carla Vita from the state. One of the things that they are really impressed with Sherburne County, and one of those things that makes you, so often we get negative comments about how the county's being run, but things that they were really impressed with that we're doing are their Sherburne County programs, including the Child Care Ability website that we put together, our low-cost loans for home improvement and repair, and some of the things that we're doing with the Housing Summit. And you sit there and the child care availability, they haven't seen that anywhere else in the country. So, I mean, it makes you feel really good about the work that we're at least trying to do here. I did stop and do a Pope Douglas tour on the way up to the AMC conference, because the AMC Solid Waste Working Group was going there, and I wanted to make sure that I could answer any questions that they had about Tri-County's involvement in that. AMC Fall Notes General, there was a pension discussion about the public safety adjacent pensions, the probation officers, and the dispatchers. That's something that's kind of ongoing. One of the big things they were also talking about there was FEMA staffing. And the reconfiguration of FEMA. About 20% of FEMA staffing has been fired at this point in time. So even when we get a new FEMA bill passed, it's going to take a while to get FEMA up and operating like it absolutely should. Talked about Minnesota having low-level radar gaps. And then we talked about a lot of stuff about mental health. I think probably the biggest thing that came out of public safety this year is we're still talking about the MRRA, Minnesota Rehabilitation and Reinvestment Act, We're talking about the Stillwater prison closing. We're talking about all this stuff. And generally in the past, our legislative priorities have been to ask for the money to fund the state's bad ideas. I brought it up there. I said, we should be done with that. We need to start pushing back, and we need to use our position as the AMC Public Safety group to push back on these ideas. What we ended up doing was we changed our number one priority from asking for money just for the ideas that they have. We looked at the biggest problem facing jails and community corrections at this time is probably mental health. It's the recurring mental health related offender. These constant people are constantly offending because they have mental health issues, chemical issues, and we don't have places to put them. We got 50 beds provisionally in the last legislative session, but what has become our number one priority for the AMC Public Safety Committee is the state paying for the building and maintenance of regional facilities all across the state. We need a lot more beds. We need places to put these people while we're helping them work out their problems. We can't just revolve them. We can't just keep putting more psychologists in the jail. So I think that was probably one of the big changes that we're going to start actually pushing back against the state to the extent that we can as a lobbying organization. Let's see. One of the other things they were talking about was the Larry Hill medical reform lawsuit. It's a little bit difficult for jails to actually administer some of the people coming in. If you were on the outside, for instance, taking diabetic meds and you're drinking and you're eating a lot of sugar on the outside, you come into the jail and you're taking that same level of meds, you're going to get very ill. So they're trying to work out some things that was probably a well-intended bill, but not actually functional the way it was put into effect. And also a lot of concern about the age of delinquency moving up from 10 to 13, effective 8/01/2026, because it doesn't, for instance, when most other states that have lowered their or raised their age of delinquency, there is no exemption for violent offenses. You know, so we have to, there's a lot of work to be done there. Let's see. I went to the Leathernecks Fallen Colors event last weekend. I have a personal connection to that. My friend Jim Wardall, who used to work here, when he and I used to ride motorcycles together, he has passed. He was a member of the Leathernecks, and I'd sometimes ride with these guys. And so I thought, well, they're having an event in my neighborhood. I'm going to go over there, set up a table. I talked to Larry Fonder about getting some veterans materials for them. Larry was fantastic. He came out on his day off and met with these guys. And a number of veteran contacts that were made there with other veterans motorcycle groups that were there at this event. We met a lot of people. One of the first guys I talked to, just very briefly, was a veteran who had 5 years working near very loud airplanes, loading them up, who now has hearing loss in both ears. And he had recently lost one of his hearing aids, and it's going to cost him $1,500 to get new ones. There's a substantial chance that his hearing aid should be being paid for by the VA. So it's one of those things you get out there and you say, we had a really great day. We were able to directly help some people. Not necessarily the most comfortable environment for everyone, but I get along with those guys just fine. And Larry was just like an absolute, I mean, he just completely related to the guys. He's going to be actually going to a lot of the chapter houses in order to reach more veterans. So, I mean, it's another spot where I think Sherburne County is kind of leading the way there. We had Sherburne County CEC last night. The county fair went well. We had 17 kids go to the state fair, and they performed very well there. We had kids do very well at the state shoot. We had 32 kids go there. The state horse show. Lots of crop outreach going on. There's virtual farm tours. A lot of good things coming up in the CEC area. And that's about it for that, except at the last meeting, I did mention that this targeted violence towards Christians, conservatives, and Republicans we have to tone down it. Now we've had another incident of that, and I have been alternately just incredibly angry and very sad since they shot Charlie Kirk. I mean, and the thing that people do, I won't spend a whole lot of time on this, the thing that people do is they say, you're Nazis and you're fascists. I mean, actually think about what that means, Nazi. The Nazis were at the most significant thing was the actual elimination of the Jewish people from the face of the earth. That is absolutely not Republicans, conservatives, or Christians. I mean, absolutely not that thing. There are other people who do. There are still actual Nazis, and there are other people who do hate the Jews and are obvious about it. But that's not who we're talking about. So stop that. The other thing is fascist. Fascist. What does fascism mean? It's an extremely difficult term to define. But the number one thing I think that fascists do, in my opinion, is they suppress communication. They control the media, and they allow only certain words to be used, those words and those phrases and those concepts that are approved by the state. Once again, absolutely not the Republicans, absolutely not conservatives, absolutely not Christians, and definitely not Mr. Charlie Kirk, who would sit down with people who absolutely hated him, disagreed with him, and converse. And we have to stop this rhetoric saying that it's okay to do violence against these people that we don't agree with. That's it. 7 minutes?
No, that went over a long time ago.
I have no perception of time.
That's okay. September 3rd, I did the AMC platform webinar. September 4th, I did the CAMI Joint Powers Board, which is Adult Mental Health Initiative, which I didn't know a whole lot about, but Tony Masters from the county here brought me in and gave me the 411 on what the Adult Mental Health Initiative does. I did the agenda review. I sat in at Santiago, Mexico. It's Ago. You get corrected if you say it wrong in their boardroom. We talked about, they invited me out, and Lynn went with me from Planning and Zoning. We talked about solar, had a long discussion in regards to that. The 11th and 12th, I did the legislative conference up in Alex. I think we've touched on all of that already. In environmental and natural resources, I think there were, looked positively on lifting the nuclear moratorium, but they didn't want to make it a priority, I think, because it was still on the platform. So I think that was there. They did, another commissioner, not me, brought it forward as a motion to put it as a priority, but it failed, I think, about 4-1, which to me was not surprising because environment, they were talking solid waste and ditches. So that's what rose to the top for that. Greg talked about the CEC. The biggest thing that he didn't mention at the CEC is the 2 girls that showed llamas, took the llamas to a retirement home for the residents of the retirement home to get their picture taken and interact with the llamas. I thought
Llama
Greg and I had a
therapy.
good chuckle about that. It was just, that has got to be, and they've got a 17-year-old llama that they're showing now that they want to replace. So anybody that wants to donate to the llama, to help buy a llama, that would be something they would be interested in. For any of you that haven't read it yet, or just put it on the pile to read or threw it away, I read through this health profile for my district. Lots of numbers, lots of different things you did. So a lot of things that we make decisions on, this might be something we can refer back to, because I learned that one of the biggest health issues in my county or in my district is obesity, and then anxiety. Didn't realize that. There was a big thing about suicide death in my district and heart disease. So there were things that I wasn't aware of that I thought were, we make decisions up here all again, and I've said that all along. Our decisions are based, we should base that on somewhat on our health. How is it affected? Because we can move the numbers on that a little bit. The other thing, September 29th, I am with Karen Larson hosting kind of a town hall meeting up in the new 1010 building in St. Cloud. HHS is going to be there, the Sheriff's Department. I think Larry's going to be there. Brian Fleming's going to be there from the county. We're trying to just showcase that the residents up there, what they're getting for their tax dollar that's coming down to Elk River. So if anybody's not at the CARP showcase out at Fremont Lake and wants to jump in and join the 1010 building up there, they're more than welcome to. I'm not sure, Bruce. I think Jake Anderson's coming from the city of St. Cloud. I think Marty Sayers is coming from the police department in St. Cloud. So I think we'll have a good turnout. I don't know how many people will show. We might be the only ones there. So we'll find out. The other thing is the MICA annual meeting. I think we're hosting this year. I think we need to have direct staff to find us a place to host that.
I'll just give Nathan a call, we'll figure it out.
I
Okay,
think we're gonna have to go down Seagull
yeah.
for size. I think because I don't,
The only other place is the Becker Golf Course. Might be able to hold it
Oh, at Pebble.
at Pebble Creek.
Yeah.
Because you got the hotel that's right there too, that anybody that might want to stay over.
yeah, we
That
could do
might be,
that.
I've been there for conferences, so that would be, they host weddings and things, so I think they would be able to
I
do
guess,
that.
yeah, they would have the size.
They would
Yeah,
have the size. I'd like to stay within the county.
Okay, let's do that.
I think the Pebble Creek might be the way to go.
It's a good idea.
It's in your district.
Well, there's not a hotel attached. I was
We're
thinking,
not gonna have it at the Brickyard, I guarantee you that, it's not big enough.
no, I was thinking of places that have the hotel attached, but that's definitely functional with the hotel there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's only 3 blocks away, so that would be, well, that's all I got. Anybody else got anything?
Mr. Chair, I have one thing. I would like us to recognize, we had our administrator, Mr. Messelt, and he worked with our communications person to draft a letter of response to the horrific assassinations that our state that our state and the state of Utah has just experienced. And I'd like to see us maybe formally recognize that at our next upcoming meeting. So we are doing exactly what the rhetoric needs to be brought down across the board. And I think what we did draft, and I think it would be nice if we could all sign it as well, because I think it was well said across the board. And I would like to see us recognize that. We put it up on our social media page. Unfortunately, we had to take it down due to comments that started getting made that was totally opposite of what our intent was for the statement. And I know it's on our website now, but I would like to see us formally recognize that at the dais as well.
Okay.
Good idea.
Anyone else? Anything else? Brad? You didn't crack a Coke? You didn't have a Snickers today? Nothing?
Ooh, notice that.
Well, he had the.
Well, that's because he had cookies.
We're adjourned.